Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes, sir. Then again I'm falling. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes, sir. Then again I'm falling. Let Jesus work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Oh, work it out. You work it out for Mother Teresa. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes, sir. Then again I'm falling. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes, sir. Then again I'm falling. Let Jesus work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Oh, work it out. You work it out for Mother Teresa.
All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is David Patrick Harry with Church of the Eternal Logos. And today we're about to have a fun one. We have another drama alert. What's going on in the world? And we're going to be looking at all types of things. Obviously, 2 weeks is since the last time we did one of these news updates. And in Trump world, that is a lifetime. I mean, there are so many things going on. Trump, Russia, Putin have come to terms. Sounds like the war in Ukraine is going to come to an end. And Zelensky, even though he has refused, is going to be accepting Trump's deal for mineral extraction from Ukraine to make up for the billions of dollars we've sent for the war. Another big one is Elon Musk. I don't know if you guys have been following this. He has his 13th baby, apparently, Ashley St. Clair, a Jewish sort of e-girl conservative, although more of a grifter than anything else. I wouldn't really consider her conservative, even though she's part of that whole TPUSA circle. Apparently, and we're going to look at a little bit of this, apparently she began a relationship with Elon Musk at some point in 2024. She, according to a lawsuit that she's recently filed for full custody of their child, they were intimate in the months of January and February of 2024. She claims that she gave birth to a boy. And on Valentine's Day of this year, so technically around a year from when they were last sleeping with each other, she comes out publicly and announces that she's had a baby with Elon Musk. Elon Musk is refusing to get back to her, or Elon Musk's team is not letting her to get in contact with Elon, and that she is being harassed by journalists. And for the safety of her privacy, she then does an expose with New York Post, basically revealing everything and then filing a lawsuit against Elon Musk, which seems to be more of a attempt to gain money from him. And this topic in specific, we got a great stream lined up for tomorrow. Rachel Wilson's going to be joining me, and we're actually going to be talking about sort of historic cautionary tales regarding sexual lust and simping, because it's not clear who actually has the upper hand in this dynamic that's happening. A lot of people are saying, well, you know, Elon Musk, she's just another one of his concubines. He's got like 3 children with 2 other women. I think he's up to 4 or 5 baby mamas. And his goal is to have as many children as possible. He stated this multiple times. Yeah, well, Justiano says Elon's mother's. Well, we're actually going to be talking a little bit about that. We got a ton of stuff to get through today. So that is actually going to make Elon's family ties and their disposition. I got a very interesting video of Elon Musk's father talking about sort of their relationship to Israel and such. But in regard to the Ashley St. Clair thing, initially it appeared that Elon was using her or decided that she could be another one of his concubines, if you will, to have children. But there is some evidence emerging that Ashley St. Clair, who is a Zionist, again, she is Jewish, may have deliberately done this. There's posts from the past few years in which she's basically joking around, said that she wanted to have a baby with Elon for all that money. And she sent those messages to another e-girl online. I forget who it is. We're going to be looking at some of this stuff. So some people have speculated that it could have even been an intelligence operation, because Ashley St. Clair has connections with some Jewish elites here in America. And I regard her agent, her personal agent and such. And so some people have been speculating that this may have been actually an entrapment of Elon, not so much of Elon trying to entrap her for a baby. And of course, she discloses all this stuff while she's in like a New York penthouse that Elon's paid for. And she claims that he's only come and seen her baby 3 times. Many people speculate the reason she did this on Valentine's Day is because Elon was actually spending the day with the children of another baby mama. And he was doing interviews and flying around the U.S., doing stuff like that. And so she is jealous, which is very, very, very possible. So we're going to be, Ashley St. Mossad. Very possible. Very possible. We'll be talking about that. Mason sends in $2, says, did you see Andrew's Gematria debate last night? No, I didn't see Andrew's Gematria debate last night. Oh, God. Tell me how that went. How did that go, Mason? Somebody in the chat. I'm sure people in the chat probably watched that. So, man, it was a mess, says Rogue Runner. Understandable. I'm not surprised. So, anyways, we got a tons of stuff. RFK Jr.'s been confirmed. Tulsi Gabbard's been confirmed since the last time we done one of these. Tulsi just fired over 100 NSA employees because it came out that the NSA actually had a secret chat in which they were openly discriminating against Christians, white men, and heterosexuals, and we're talking about polyamory, transgenderism, child transgenderism, plotting on how to promote their progressive ideology, and basically pretty much a bunch of nefarious, weird sexual stuff. So that has actually recently come to light. So she just fired over 100 people. I think that was yesterday. I got a bunch of random stuff too that I thought was interesting. For example, a kayaker being swallowed up by a whale and then spit out, and all types of stuff. So it's going to be a fun stream today. So smash that like, guys. We got so many topics to cover. I'm sure we're going to be here for a minute. And if you could support my work using Streamlabs, Dono Chat, or here on YouTube, I just posted the second half to my Gregory Palamas stream for members only here on YouTube. And I just recorded a members only video that will be up only on my website and for members here on YouTube, which is discussing Donald Trump's potential symbolic or more prophetic, if you're a Zionist, relationship to Cyrus the Great. And so if you guys don't know, in 2018, Israel, they created a temple coin in which it shows the faces of Cyrus the Great and Donald Trump. And this had to do in relationship to him moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem and recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And so for both Jewish and Christian Zionists, this has been, quote, for them, a fulfillment of biblical prophecy, and has led to discussions equating Donald Trump to Cyrus the Great. So I did a whole, it's about a 30-minute video that's going to be available for members only. So get yourself a YouTube membership now, but preferably, I have so many topics that are only available on my website, because when it comes to discussing things like the Third Temple, more intricate aspects of the Khazarian theory, things that may or may not be controversial, all that stuff is up at my website for $5 a month. So for $5 a month, or if you pay for the full year, $50, you get a whole year access to exclusive video content. All my show notes, all types of stuff will be available. And if you'd like to also join our private think tank, that's $25 a month. We meet 2 times a month. In that membership also includes the fitness membership, which is the first Monday of every month. And then the first Wednesday and the third Wednesday of every month, we have our premium think tank meeting. So if you'd like to support my work, please do so by going to that website and signing up. I'd greatly appreciate that. Also, if you would be interested in a one-on-one session, you can do so with this link right here. We can get into a private Zoom meeting and discuss any topic your heart desires right here. And also, if you would be interested in sponsoring a stream, we have some sponsored streams coming down the pipe. I'm going to be doing, like I said, a stream tomorrow with Rachel Wilson. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Rachel and I haven't streamed in a while, and we'll be talking about, again, biblical instances of historic simping and the problems of sexual lust. And we'll be going into more detail with Elon, Ashley St. Clair, some of Destiny's blackmail, all types of stuff like that. We'll even be touching on Napoleon, all types of fun stuff. That'll be tomorrow with Rachel. And then I'll be doing an apocalyptic stream Friday, going over the prophecies of St. Cosmos. So that should be a lot of fun. So today, tomorrow, and Friday, we're going to be pumping out some content. As you can see, I'm actually surrounded by books. I'm in the middle of finishing my dissertation, which I got a hard deadline April 1st. So I've got like 250 some pages written, and I got one more chapter to do. So if you notice, I've been posting a little bit more clip videos as of late. That's because I'm running out of time and really got to focus on some of that stuff. But I promise you, we still got great streams coming. And if you would like to support and sponsor a topic, please do so with that link right there. I'd greatly appreciate it. And also, if you're in the market for any Orthodox items, be it icons, prayer ropes, incense, whatever it may be, check out orthodoxdepot.com, orthodoxdepot.com. It's a great American Orthodox company here in the Midwest. Use promo code COTEL, and you'll be able to help me out, as well as a small Orthodox business here in America. So with that being said, guys, I'm actually excited to so the first thing I want to show you guys is actually pretty funny. So like I said, it's going to be a collection of things. So what I've been doing for these, and you'll see I have basically 1,000 Twitter tabs pulled up. So we're going to be here a minute. But the first thing, so some of it is just funny stuff that I thought was notable and worthy. So this has no newsworthy events whatsoever, but I thought it would be funny to include today as a precautionary warning of do not be a gym pervert. So this guy right here, as you know, anybody who goes to the gym as of late, women basically are half naked. And some of the men basically go there not to get fit and jacked and pump their testosterone up. They go there to stare at women. And so this guy actually is sharing a story in which that's what he was doing and he got caught. And because of the way he looks, he actually was able to convince the man that he has Down syndrome. So check this out. I thought it was pretty funny. And just to knock off and kick off today's stream in a sort of lighthearted, humorous way, I thought we would begin with this one. So check this out.
Really died for being a pervert. I was at the gym and there was a girl squatting and I looked at her for 1 second before I was like, oh, don't get caught staring. And I looked down, I saw that she was recording the workout and I was like, I'm definitely in frame just standing there. So I was like, okay, I need to delete that video. So I snuck up, she's facing away squatting and I tried to stop the video. And in the distance I heard, oi, mate, what are you doing with my girlfriend's phone? I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? This Fraser man grabs me by the neck. And he goes, were you trying to send that video of her swatting to you, you creep? And I just froze. I was a deer in the headlights. And I just said, oh, I thought it was my phone. I thought it was my phone. That was the best I could come up with. He's like holding me like Darth Vader. Other people in the gym are now watching. I'm just thinking, if he assaults me right now, we're going to go to court. There's no way I'm winning that case. Look at me, I'm not in shape. I look like I go to the gym to stare at women squatting. I'm thinking, hopefully, he'll just end it all. One quick punch, I'm done. Then I'm like, so he gets to be the hero that kills perverts, and I'm the pervert. That's my legacy forever. His girlfriend takes off her headphones, turns around and goes, babe, what's going on? And he goes, this creep was trying to take your phone to watch videos of you squat. And I'm just like, I'm so sorry. I thought it was my phone. I thought it was my phone. She looks me up and down and she goes to her boyfriend, babe, I think he's a bit special. Let him go. And he looks me up and down and goes, oh my God, I'm so sorry, bud. That's her phone, not your phone. I'm nodding, being like, okay, got it. And he rubs my head like I'm a golden retriever. He leaves me alone and he goes to the rest of the gym. Everyone, he means no harm. So you're telling me he looked at me once, no questions asked. And he thinks I have special needs.
So I thought that was hilarious and a good way to start off today's little news stream. Now this, and I think Jay shared this actually on X. This is a male kayaker who was out in the ocean around South America. It says hashtag Patagonia, and a whale literally swallows him up. Now this is what was it, about a year or 2 years ago? Did you guys see the guy? What was it, off Maine or somewhere in the Northeast off the eastern seaboard here in the U.S.? A guy was swimming, or he was also in a kayak or something like that, in another similar instance in which he was swallowed up by a whale. The whale broke his leg, but spit him out. And so I only bring this up because, you know, obviously there's a comparison there with the story of Jonah and everything like that. So very interesting little video here. I'll play the whole thing for you. Is this dude is actually swallowed up by a whale while out, and it's, what are the chances that he's being filmed? Can you imagine that? Good Lord. And then the whale probably realizes what happens and then spits the guy out. So he survived. He says, I thought I was dead. I thought it had eaten me, that it had swallowed me. Thankfully, Adrian emerged completely unharmed, a rare survivor of an encounter that few could ever imagine. So that happened within the last 2 weeks. What we have next? I don't even remember everything that I got on here. Oh my gosh. Did you guys see this woke insanity? This has to do with in Worcester, Massachusetts, voted to become a sanctuary city for transgender and gender diverse people. The city council meeting before the vote was interesting. Did you guys see these nuts, these absolute idiots, these crazy people? Check this out. You guys prepare. One, it's absolutely disturbing what these people are, you know, how they're behaving, I guess, but their identity and whatnot. However, it will give you some good laughs, I promise. So check this out.
To protect me because the federal government won't. And if you think you're afraid of Trump, you should see how afraid of Trump I am.
Can you wrap up, please?
Yes, I can. If you say that you're afraid of Trump and that's why you don't want the city to be a safe space for trans people, you better prepare for trans people to make this a very unsafe space.
I'm shaking right now. I don't want to be here.
Please.
I'm sorry. Am I taking too long pleading for my life?
I'm shaking. I don't want to be here, but I want to be here to complain about Trump. What?
You remembered how many children I have and that 2 of them are trans.
I speak as both the B and the T in the LGBT.
What are the chances that lady has 2 trans kids? Probably not very surprising.
I'm multiply disabled. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder that causes me immense physical pain. I'm on the autism spectrum, and I have narcolepsy, and I couldn't drive myself here. So I had to hide from my driver that I was in drag, which is not an easy thing to do in drag.
I do not want to be here. It's my day off. I do not want to be in your DMs. I do not want to be in your email inboxes.
Look at this absolute loon. So this is a woman clearly trying to present herself as a man. She has a transgender flag badge on her coat jacket. She's dressed in a man's oversized suit, and she's used makeup to color on a beard while having blue eyeshadow on. I mean, this person is absolutely nuts. With a short sort of masculine hairstyle. These people are crazy. The fact that they go and present themselves and act this way in public and think that that's endearing is just nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
Not want my creativity writing diss tracks like Kendrick. I don't want to spend an hour applying glitter on my face so that you will hear and see me. I want you to listen to me.
Let us remember that the Nazis burned the books that the Nazis burned books on gender sciences first.
So now you're a Nazi if you don't think children should be castrated and people shouldn't have their genitals mutilated, at least not publicized and popularized in culture. And yeah, what he's referring to is the research that Magnus Hirschfeld was doing in Berlin through the 1920s and early 1930s, in which they were essentially the first clinic to experiment with transgender surgeries. And yes, the Nazis, rightfully so, went in and burned all those books and shut down that clinic. And now if you're actually against child mutilation, you're also a Nazi, just FYI.
Now the administration has villainized and marginalized migrant workers, trans, LGBT people, and even special needs, denying life-saving and affirming care.
Can you look at me and tell me how many of my friends need to die before you do anything?
Please wrap
Look
up.
at me.
Okay, well,
Look at me. Look at me.
well done here.
Fucking pathetic.
Well done. Come on.
Of course, we need to continue celebrating Black History Month because in spite of what's coming down from Washington, we all know that we all exist and we all need to be recognized for our existence.
But be aware that you are a guest in my house when you come. And when you come, know that there are strong queer and trans people in my classroom who will collect you with the quickness.
My name in drag is Dee Dee Delight. And my name out of drag is Dewey Cosgrove Atienza.
Laddie LaRouge, he, they, in drag, District 3.
My legal name is Olivia D'Ambrosio. My public name is Livy Scanlon. My wife and I own a home in the Canal District.
I speak as someone who is always misgendered, like all the time. People refer to me as sir when
I wonder why, bud.
I prefer to be referred to as ma'am. I speak as someone who is afraid to use public toilets. I speak as someone who is a member of this community and is a queer person.
You have to imagine being me and my wife, fearing that our marriage rights will be stripped away at any moment.
Please, I only have so much time. Please, Joe's gonna cut me off.
Which matters more? Covering the legal fees of systemic police brutality or protecting the lives of queer people in our community? How many lives have to be lost before you consider fighting back against fascism and corruption?
Now is the time to say that if federal money...
I mean, just by pure objective statistics, aren't they themselves more likely to take their life than anybody else? And I'm not trying to be mean and rude, but I mean, the suicide rate of people that actually go through with gender affirming care, it's almost 50%. It's almost 1 out of every 2 people end up offing themselves or have some type of intense addiction, substance addiction. So I don't know who they're talking to. I think they should be talking to each other. Yeah, it's 46. That's almost 50%. That's almost 1 out of every 2 people who receive gender affirming care off themselves. and they're worried about fascists. What? Major shout out to John Kell throws in a generous $20. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate that. Over on the Dono chat, Golem throws in $5 and says, when I'm in the gym, I prefer the blood to be in my muscles, not my thing. Yeah, that's the idea. But if anybody's gone to a gym recently, you know that there's a bunch of creepy people that just go to stare at women. So it is what it is, but God bless you. An Orthodox King throws in $10. Thank you so much. He says, became a premium member. Love the website. Fully recommend everyone to learn more and help our brother grow. Thank you so much, Orthodox King, for helping me out, becoming a website member and supporting the content. So thank you so much, brother. God bless you. And guys, like I said, we got a bunch of members content that's going to be available here on YouTube. So please, if somebody's feeling generous today, give some COTEL Crew memberships. Would really appreciate that. Let's see. Emilio says, can someone donate to DPH about what's happening in Romania where they suspended the election? Yeah, I'm very familiar. They actually arrested the guy, but he's now out. He recently had knee surgery. I think that's that comes up later in this. So we'll come back to it. We got it.
It relies on the dehumanization of trans people that we don't want your goddamn money.
I get that some of you care more about easy funding than trans lives and don't mind Nazis for some whatever reason, but
Normally I would.
Do any of these people look like outstanding citizens of like high competency and quality? They all legitimately appear to have a mental illness.
Say good evening, but through the chair, I will only impart my sour grapes.
It's an extremely emotional and taxing thing to stand up here as someone as part of the trans and gender diverse community.
My name is Katie. I'm from District 5, and I'm speaking in support of agenda items 10B and 14B.
Sounds like the Hunger Games. Somebody looks like this. Hi, I'm from District 5. I go by the name Katie. This is like full-blown Hunger Games.
Right now in our country, Trump is threatening the trans and gender diverse community.
Noticing people here are trying to control the rights of others, and that's not right. We should make Worcester a sanctuary city for trans people. Everybody deserves to feel safe, and everybody needs to feel safe. I've lived here for 4 years, and there hasn't really...
Okay, that's just sad. The fact that some parent actually got their child up there to talk, that's just sad. Now, in regards to politics, one of the things that the left is absolutely going irate about right now is the massive popularity Trump's agenda is having across America, even across the political divide. Conservative Democrats, however you want to consider them, are actually massively in favor of many of the things he's doing. And so 81% of Americans support deporting people who are here illegally, despite all the fanfare of they're breaking up their homes and little Emilio's not going to have his father. Actually, the majority of America, 81%, supports deportation. And as Tom Holman said, they can deport the whole family. 76% of Americans support the Doge-led efforts of a full-scale effort to find and eliminate waste in government. 76% of Americans support closing the border with added security. 69% of Americans support President Trump's common sense efforts to ban men from girls' sports, which I got a great clip of Trump actually calling out the governor of Maine. So Maine and I think California are the two states that are still allowing men compete in women's sports. There was a video of a California high school and a high school in Maine that was still allowing men. And so he called out the Maine governor. We got the video and she said, "I'll see you in court." So she's going to lose. Trump's ban on men and women's sports is going to win, but that's happening. 65% of Americans support the president's efforts to eliminate all preferences by race and hiring and awarding of government contracts, essentially ending not only DEI, but affirmative action. And 61% of Americans support the president's plan to place reciprocal tariffs on countries that have tariffs on the United States. And most notable is obviously Mexico and Canada have agreed for border security to alleviate Trump's tariffs on them, but the EU, and this will get back to Romania and all this different stuff. Well, we're going to come back to it, but the EU is getting ready to get 25% tariffs by the US, and Europe is in a terrible position. We're going to be talking a little bit about the elections that just occurred in Germany. So Germany had the elections, a lot of hope for AfD, which is kind of the nationalist right of center party. I mean, when you talk about European politics, it's hard to divide it in the same sort of structure of right and left in America, because much of the conservatives, whether it be in Britain or Germany or France, are what we would consider Democrats. So the CDU ended up winning the election, which is the conservative party in Germany. And they are absolutely weak and pathetic, and did a 180 about face. So the soon to be next prime minister or president of Germany, I forget if it's president or prime minister, whatever, chancellor. He has said that they are not going to stop immigration, which was one of their promises before the election. And so immediately upon the end of the election, AfD got 20%, which was a major increase. But the Conservative Party has essentially established a coalition with the liberal wing, and they are now bringing in airplanes full of Afghans into Germany as we speak. So those flights have resumed. So anyways, Europe is in a terrible state. It feels they're about 5 to 10 years behind the United States in any sort of nationalistic awakening whatsoever. But this is a quick little video, just kind of going over the popularity of Donald Trump and much of his domestic policies right now.
Nearly every one of President Trump's policy initiatives are receiving strong majority support. And I have noted that in every briefing since Inauguration Day. 81% of Americans support deporting illegal migrant criminals from our nation's interior. 76% of Americans support the Doge-led efforts of a full-scale investigation to find and eliminate fraud and waste in government expenditures. Again, this is from a Harvard-Harris poll, a very legitimate pollster. 76% of Americans support closing the border. 69% of Americans support President Trump's common sense efforts to ban men from women's sports. As you all know, we celebrated that executive order at the White House a couple of weeks ago. 65% of Americans support the president's efforts to eliminate all preferences by race in the hiring and awarding of government contracts, which is another pledge that Doge is working hard to fulfill. And 61% of Americans, vast majority, support the president's plan for reciprocal tariffs to ensure that other countries are treating us the way we have always been treated. Despite what many Democrats and media members want you to believe, the Trump agenda is not only necessary, but it is overwhelmingly popular. Why? Because it's driven by common sense.
So next thing I got is talking about Maine. So Maine being one of the few states that actually still is allowing men. This was from a luncheon or something at the White House a few days ago, in which Trump literally calls out the governor of Maine right to her face. And, she's not the most beautiful thing in the world. Some people have been speculating that she herself is a man. I don't think that's the case. But anyways,
The
here's the clip.
NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it? We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding. Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics. The NCAA.
So again, despite the Zionism, which we're going to be getting into here in a few, you always got to appreciate the troller in chief, Donald Trump. I love that he's not politically correct, that he just says whatever's on his mind. It's always refreshing. Now, this was really interesting. This was from, I think, around the same day. This was a few days ago in which Trump had people in front of him. Wasn't just journalists and such. It was supporters, MAGA supporters. And he was honoring various people in attendance. He even joked about potentially running again for president so that he would have a third term, because I think the way that it's worded has to do with consecutive terms. So you can only have 2 consecutive terms, but who knows if that's going to happen or not. But here he actually introduces the CEO of Pfizer and the whole room starts booing. And you can see that Trump first kind of shocked by it and then he starts smiling. So
You also have the head of Pfizer here. So I want to thank him. One of the great people, one of the great businessmen. Thank you, Albert. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to congratulate our newly. We also have the head of Pfizer here. So
I don't know. Always good when the big pharma is getting booed. It came in today. So apparently Maryland, the Democrats in the state want to put condom vending machines in kindergartens. Now, this is saying preschools. From what I read, it was kindergartens, but check this out.
Maryland State House advancing a bill that would permit condoms to be sold in vending machines on public school campuses, including preschools. Republicans in the legislature say it's going too far. Maryland State Delegate Kathy Shalega is calling on parents to wake up, and she joins us now. So here's what Maryland Department of Legislative Services says about this bill that's making its way through the State House. This bill repeals the misdemeanor prohibition against an associated penalty for selling or offering for sale a contraceptive or contraceptive device by means of a vending machine or other automatic device at a kindergarten, nursery school, elementary school, or secondary school. And I think a lot of people at home are saying, what?
All of us on that, well, most of us on the House floor said exactly that. What is this? So we offered an amendment on the bill on second reading when you can amend a bill to just say, look, just high schools. We wouldn't like that either. The Republicans and the Maryland Freedom Caucus would not like that, but they rejected it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of schools that are teaching abstinence, right?
Well,
and,
right.
Maybe abstinence until marriage in a best case scenario, maybe just abstinence until you're in college, but to put condoms in a vending machine puts it right there in front of you. But why? What justification is there for doing this at a nursery school or a kindergarten? I mean,
it's probably so the teachers don't leave incriminating DNA evidence. It's the only thing I can come up with. Why would children in preschool, kindergartens, and even grade school need condom vending machines? Why would even a high school need condom vending machines? Like the drive to sexualize children by the left is just nightmarish, and it just clearly identifies this depravity and debauchery within them in an attempt to just like take away the innocence of children, which is clearly demonic and satanic.
Unless you just want to make a very broad brush law that doesn't take a lot to interpret.
It makes no sense whatsoever. And, you know, the intent may have at some point been high school, but when they rejected our move to just make it high school again, I, like you would say, you're discriminating against traditional families that don't want their 14-year-old daughter going to a high school and walking down the hall in front of a sex vending machine.
Right.
But, you know, putting this in a daycare or nursery school and, you know, into a preschool, I am a grandmother of two beautiful 10 and 7-year-old girls, and I can't imagine them walking down the hall and seeing a colorful condom vending machine with condoms and other things in it. And then
they're probably going to have butt plugs that look like pacifiers. Like I wouldn't even be surprised at this point. It's just so outrageous what they're trying to do and how they're trying to sexualize children, to normalize, as somebody said in the chat, these minor attracted persons, the MAPs, the pedophiles. And so one of the things, at least, again, people are talking about politics is all theater, but at least with Trump, it's entertaining, and much true to that comment. But at least with him being president, the Overton window has shifted enough where it's like people are just coming back to a little bit more common sense and just saying things that you weren't able to say before. But this is just outrageous. And then the fact that they declined to limit the condom vending machines to just high school. Like, what? One, you want condom vending machines, but then you want it not limited to high school, but also primary school? That's just nuts.
Having to have a conversation with a 7-year-old, you know, mom, what's a condom? What's in that machine?
Well, maybe they're thinking if we run out of balloons to make balloon animals, we just go to the vending machine. So here's what Maryland State Delegate Nicole Williams said, trying to justify the move. Listen here.
It's not dictating what school systems should and shouldn't do. It's not mandating anybody to do anything or suggesting that they should do something. It's just removing a criminal penalty. The sky is not going to fall if we pass this bill.
I guess what she's saying there is it's not like you're going to suddenly see condoms at preschool. It just removes the criminal penalty, and then schools are free to do what they want to do with this.
Well, that's how they.
And here's where the slippery slope comes in. I mean, I get the slippery slope's a logical fallacy, but my gosh, remember when it was 2014 was the legalization of gay marriage, and now we have the entire normalization, even in the conservative movement, of gay men literally purchasing babies through this surrogacy process where essentially they just rent the womb of a woman and then pull the baby away from her as soon as it's born and then take maternal photos where they're laying on the bed like they actually did anything. Like, you're two dudes. You didn't do anything. This is disgusting. And somebody has been highlighting, like, why is it that so many of these men, these homosexual men, only want boys? And what was it, like Dave Rubin and his husband, they went through like 4 different fetuses because they only wanted a boy or something like that. Or maybe they have a boy and a girl, but they had specific requirements. And so who knows with genetic engineering, CRISPR, all types of stuff. I mean, this IVF stuff is getting a little bit out of hand. And this is where we're going to get into Elon Musk and Ashley St. Clair here, because there was a speculation that she was an IVF mother, because apparently, according to Grok on X here, all of Elon Musk's children are IVF, which I don't know that for sure, but that was according to Grok. And I believe a community note actually backed it up. But according to the lawsuit by Ashley St. Clair, she claims that she had actual sexual intercourse with Elon Musk. So again, well, we're going to cover all that stuff here in a second.
They start, right, John? They start by saying, oh, don't object to this. But in the meantime, there was another bill on the Health and Government Operations Committee to put Plan B, birth control pills, all kinds of things in high schools. So, they're playing chess. Plan, first move, we remove the penalty so we can get the vending machine in the high school and other schools as well. And then next year, they're going to come back and they're going to put birth control pills, Plan B, condoms, as
sex toys, plastic vaginas that people have, butt plugs that is being normalized through these OnlyFans girls posting videos where they wear them out in the world. I mean, it's disgusting. It's absolute sexual degeneracy is running rampant across the whole Western world right now. It's absolutely disgusting. So anyways, the next thing I wanted to show you guys was this is a video of, again, related to sexual degeneracy. So I was telling you about the NSA had this secret chat that apparently nobody knew about, which they were discussing polyamory, child transgenderism, wife swapping, homosexuality. They were actively condemning heterosexuality, white Christian America, conservatives, MAGA supporters. And these are the NSA. These are the people that have access to literally everything. This is the whole Patriot Act after 9/11, in which they can literally survey the entire American population, and everything is being tracked probably through Palantir and all types of stuff that the NSA is working with. The fact that it came out that these people who have access to some of the most intimate details of the American populace are absolutely depraved sexual lunatics was astounding. And this came out 2 days ago. And then yesterday, this video is from yesterday, Tulsi Gabbard appeared on Fox News with Jesse Waters talking about how she found the names of anybody who had participated in that sex chat that they had, this private sex chat that apparently was open to the CIA as well. So some CIA people and mostly NSA were talking about really weird stuff. Some of the chats that at least the conversations I saw on X veering on the edge of pedophile. So this is Tulsi Gabbard's response. And so again, I only have so much time in these streams, so I'm not showing you the confirmation of Gabbard and RFK Jr. We know they got confirmed by a slim margin, but they did. Now Tulsi Gabbard's in charge of the entire intelligence agency, DNI, the entire intelligence agency sees within the United States. And so she basically has sole power. And what she did was, once she found out about this, she fired everybody. And according to her, based on what she's seen, this is just the tip of it.
Thank you, Jesse. It's good to see you again. Good to see you too. Not so good to see some of these transgender sex chats among the intel officials. What are we going to do about that?
Well, Jesse, what we're going to do has already been done. There are over 100 people from across the intelligence community that contributed to and participated in this, what is really just an egregious violation of trust, what to speak of like basic rules and standards around professionalism. I put out a directive today that they all will be terminated and their security clearances will be revoked. But the thing here, Jesse, is like we got to take a step back, because this is just barely scratching the surface. When you see what these people were saying, and thanks to Chris Rufo for putting it all out online, they were brazen in using an NSA platform intended for professional use to conduct this kind of really horrific behavior. And they were brazen in doing this because when was the last time anyone was really held accountable? Certainly not over the last 4 years, certainly not over the last 10, maybe 20 years. When we look at some of the biggest violations of the American people's trust in the intelligence community. So today's action in holding these individuals accountable is just the beginning of what we're seeing across the Trump administration, which is carrying out the mandate the American people gave him. Clean house, root out that rot and corruption and weaponization and politicization, so we can start to rebuild that trust in these institutions that are charged with an important mission of serving the American people, ensuring our safety, security, and freedom.
There's going to be a lot of house cleaning, because now we're hearing CIA agents don't like getting dosed, so they're going to
Anyways, so thought that was newsworthy and worthy bringing to you guys' attention. RFK Jr. has been confirmed, and some of the interesting stuff that he's already said is that he stopped. So what was it? Moderna or Pfizer had come out with an oral mRNA, essentially an mRNA vaccine, but it's done orally. He has stopped it. It's no longer going forward. He has stopped the seasonal flu vaccine that's supposed to be released here relatively in the next few weeks or months. That is now under investigation, and he's put together a task force to come to an ultimate conclusion on the reason for autism's rise in America. So again, I know people are a little critical of Tulsi. Fine. I'm not here to promote anybody. I'm here to give you guys a little bit of the news and just go over some of the biggest stories since the last time I did one. And the fact that RFK Jr., I mean, he's a big climate change guy. He's also a Zionist. That'd be one thing that I feel like I do sympathize with Tulsi, is that she is not, I've never heard her be openly pro-Zionist, but who knows where she stands now. She's part of the administration. But RFK Jr., he is a Zionist. He is, pretty progressive on social policies, on climate change, stuff like that. But he's great when it comes to these jabs and what's in them. And he has also launched an investigation into Johnson & Johnson, claiming that they included materials in some of their jabs that they did not actually disclose. So a lot of interesting stuff coming out regarding that. Now, today, Trump had his first cabinet appearance, and a reporter was trying to get, a gotcha with RFK Jr. because there's been a few cases of measles in Texas, and RFK Jr. is not about to promote a measles vaccine. And so because of that, the media is trying to sort of crucify him as a, conspiracy theorist or whatnot. And this was his response today when asked about that. Oh, let's check this one out. This one's a little bit better.
Do you have concerns about that, and have you asked Secretary Kennedy to look into that?
Well, why don't we, Bobby, do you want to speak on that?
We are following the measles epidemic every day. I think there's 124 people who have contracted measles at this point in Kings County, Texas. Mainly, we're told in the Mennonite community, there are 2 people who have died.
So it's kind of hard to hear him with his raspy voice. He hardly has a voice anyways. He's saying that apparently 10 people have died by measles in Texas, all in the Mennonite community. He feels that this is localized and is not interested in using some type of medical intervention, and claims that this happens regularly. Whereas you can see some of the more leftist operative media sources are claiming, oh, this is the first measles death in 10 years. This is a tragedy. And he's saying it's 10 people in one community.
We're watching it, and there are about 20 people hospitalized, mainly for quarantine. We're watching it. We put out a post on it yesterday, and we're going to continue to follow it. Incidentally, there have been 4 measles outbreaks this year in this country. Last year, there were 16.
So he just said there were 16 measles outbreaks last year and 4 measles outbreaks this year alone. And you can see just by this post saying, oh, this is the first measles death in 10 years. Well, I'm not totally convinced by that, but yeah, all I hear is Jim Bob when he speaks. Yeah. So anyway, I just thought that was a little bit newsworthy, and the fact that he's going to bring a potential lawsuit against Johnson & Johnson, that was huge. And another sort of positive note related to this is that his former running mate, Nicole Shanahan, she has converted so she married a Jewish man like 10 years ago. And since then, I guess like last year, she converted to Christianity, and she put a big post up on X claiming that she's now a Jew for Jesus. Take that however you will, but she converted because her husband was Jewish, And apparently they have now converted both to Christianity and got baptized. And this is a clip of her talking about that to Glenn Beck.
I have spent time with the Bible and Christianity.
I noticed
in the
you're
last
wearing
year.
a cross.
Yeah. Yeah. This year taught me a lot. And it taught me that of all of the, intellectual experiences I've had with spirituality, there's only one book, and that is the New Testament, that helps you understand how to go up against evil. Like to really arm yourself for it. Old Testament has some of it too, but the New Testament really does teach you how to do it with a great deal of grace and faith.
So who knows the sincerity of her heart? Who knows what type of, I wouldn't be surprised if she's one of these dispensational Zionists or she's in some type of evangelical church. Who knows? But the fact that she is now promoting Christ and claiming to be identifying as Christian, I think that's a good positive move in the right direction for sure. And so this was a video of RFK's confirmation. Not really anything that we need to demonstrate right now. This I thought was pretty interesting. This is a gentleman, Joe Scarborough of MSNBC, who's been a huge hater, and as of recent, especially since Trump announced RFK Jr. as the health secretary, mocking him about the belief that these vaccines potentially could be tied to autism and all this different stuff. And so it's been being shared across the internet as of late of Joe Scarborough years ago talking with RFK Jr. and actually sympathizing with the idea that maybe all these jabs that we're giving the children, which is now up to what, 70? I think it's like 70, 75 is like the vaccine schedule for children at this point. I mean, just absolutely atrocious, unbelievable, outstanding. So I wanted to show you this clip real quick, but Jay Hamza throws in a generous $25 over on the Dono chat. Thank you so much, Jay. He said, the disturbing thing that is being pushed is the quantum computers and the download of information that requires Neuralink. I believe Doge will usher in one world currency. I totally see that. We're going to get into that today as well. I got a video of Elon Musk literally claiming that he's building God out of Memphis, Tennessee, and chose Memphis because Memphis, Egypt is where the Egyptian gods were located. But so we're going to get into that, Jay, I promise. He says, check out the book Petros Romanos by Tom Horn as well. I'll check that out. I've never heard of Petros Romanos. So thank you very much, Jay. Really appreciate that. And a thank you to Melly throwing in $5. Thank you so much, Melly. God bless you. And so this is a video from a few years ago. Check this out.
My son, born in 1991, has a slight form of autism called Asperger's. But it seems, and again, when I was practicing law and also when I was in Congress, parents would constantly come to me and they'd bring me videotapes of their children, and they were all around the age of my son or younger.
The generation
Something happened in 1989.
Exactly. The generation, what happened was the vaccine schedule was increased. We went up from receiving about 10 vaccines in our generation to these kids received 24 vaccines. And they all had this thimerosal in them, this mercury, and nobody bothered to do an analysis of what the cumulative impact of all that mercury was doing to kids. As it turns out, we are injecting our children with 400 times the amount of mercury that FDA or EPA considers safe. A child on his first day that he's born is injected with a hepatitis B shot. Under EPA guidelines, he would have to be 275 pounds to safely absorb that shot.
And yet we're just constantly pumping our kids with these vaccines.
Right, and what happened was that in 1988, 1 in every 2,500 American children had autism. Today, 1 in every 166 children have autism, and plus
And now it's 1 in every 31 children. I listened to a recent thing on this was within 2024. 1 in 31 children are diagnosed with a form of autism at this point. Now, how in the world is it that common? Unless there's something in these jabs or something going on. Now, Trump in a video recently insinuated that it may be tied to chemtrails. He said it may be tied to these chemicals that are being sprayed in the air that may be affecting the population. and causing these rates to increase. Now, very plausible, but I think it's not just the chemtrails. And from what I was reading, RFK Jr. is pushing Trump, whether it be an executive order or a bill passed through Congress, to eliminate Big Pharma's ability to actually advertise medicines on television. So all these Pfizer and Moderna and Johnson & Johnson commercials, see a doctor and see if you can get whatever it is. Those are actually potentially, God willing, going to be eliminated and no longer being present. I think the United States is like the only country in the world that allows Big Pharma to advertise to the population. And of course, we're one of the sickest populations in the world, which begins to draw a correlation there.
Children have other kinds of learning disorders, other kinds of neurological disorders, speech delay, language disorders, ADD, hyperactivity, that all seem to be connected, that are all connected. The science shows are all connected to autism.
Bobby, what we've always said, you and I could debate 1,000 different issues, whether it's Terry Schiavo or the environment. I think would agree on the environment. But in this case, you've got the federal government coming in saying, well, there's no good science. And of course, in politics, science always gets diluted. Why hasn't the federal government stepped up and worked more? Because listen, Bobby, I can't prove it tonight. You can't prove it. But intuitively, you look at the spike, you look at what happened with the Marisol, there is no doubt in my mind, maybe it's 2 years from now, maybe it's 5 years from now, maybe it's 10 years from now, we're going to find out that the Marisol causes, in my opinion, autism.
You know what? The science is...
Now, it's so interesting that Joe Scarborough has totally changed his opinion. Now, he's basically a Democrat affiliate and a propagandist. So not a major surprise, but very interesting that he's totally changed his tune as of late. And so, like Candace Owen says, RFK Jr. is an amazing appointment after, this was old. Anyways, there was a recent one in which, and this is another thing that he's doing. So he's going to initiate an investigation of the potential risk associated with SSRIs and people going essentially crazy through all these pharmaceuticals. So great stuff there. Let's see. Dave throws in $5, says DPH in relation to Memphis, Nashville has a full replica of the Parthenon from Greece with a giant statue of the goddess Athena. Oh, very interesting. I wasn't aware of that. We're going to get to Elon. I got a whole section here actually going over some of the Israeli stuff and Elon Musk, his baby, his dad talking about Jews and Israel, all types of stuff. So we'll get in that in just a second, but thank you so much, Dave. Was not aware of that. Really appreciate it. Now, we're not going to get too much into this, but one of the interesting things that happened within the last couple weeks is the NHL, for their All-Star game, created a 4-team playoff between, it was Finland, Sweden, America, and Canada. So the best players in the NHL, if you're from those countries, you would be on their teams, and they played each other. Now, the first game, America smoked Canada 3-1. Canada ended up winning the whole thing barely in overtime against the United States. But one of the things that happened in the first game is that the Americans, the Canadian fans, this took place in Boston, Massachusetts. They were booing the American national anthem. And I'm going to get into all this Canada stuff. And I saw some people in the chat from Canada. I love my Orthodox and my based Canadians, but why are Canadians so freaking beta and weak? I got a video to show you guys in just a second to make this point. But when the game started, the first game, game 1 between the U.S. and Canada, the American players immediately fought 3 times the Canadians. And so this video is just kind of highlighting. I can't play it because of the music, but they basically knocked the shit out of Canada. And then in the championship, Canada did win in overtime. McDavid, considered the best NHL player in the world, ended up winning with a overtime shot. But it caused a larger discussion because the NHL and this series between 4 teams got more views than the NBA. And so the NBA, which is actually, those players get paid the most out of some of the sports leagues in the United States, more so than NFL players. It is domestically in the United States, they are absolutely devastated by the absence of views. Like it's at like a 10, 20-year low. Nobody gives a shit about the NBA. And it has to do with them all being so political. Like you can't criticize China because China is now becoming like the largest market for NBA viewership. And so the NBA is basically like a globalist organization. And they had like their all-star game in which a white guy actually won the dunk contest for the third year in a row. And the NBA is struggling to try to figure out how people, to try to get Americans to watch the sport again, because on average, I mean, some of these games aren't even getting 1 million views, whereas like an NFL game's like 15 to 20 million views. So in the NFL absolutely dominates the sports landscape. But what we're seeing is the NHL, which is no longer pro LGBTQ. So they don't do like, Pride Month anymore. They don't have any gay flags because some of the players actually refuse to wear them during the games. So the NHL has come out as a little bit now. The commissioner seems to be a little bit of a liberal, but they, as a league, seems to be a much more conservative league. Obviously, the demographic is mostly white, but they are seeing massive skyrocketing in views. So thought that was newsworthy just to throw that out there. Now, to get in a little bit of this baby mama drama with Elon Musk. So Ashley St. Clair, some of you guys may know, Ashley St. Clair is a sort of Jewish conservative grifter. She's made very weird claims, major Zionist. She was anti-Trump, then she's pro-Trump. She's anti-border wall, then she's pro-border wall. She's made a bunch of weird sexual comments in the past. People have speculated, go search up sex laptop. You'll figure out what I'm talking about. But she has claimed that Elon Musk and her has recently had a baby, and that Elon Musk has visited her and him 3 times. Now, Elon Musk is apparently paying for her to live in a very nice penthouse apartment in New York. Somebody said it was like $7,000 a month to this particular apartment. Actually, it's like closer to $8,000. And this has led to a whole bunch of speculation about Elon Musk having these concubines, basically paying women off to have children for him. But, here we go. That's what I heard too, that it was like $40,000 a month or something that she was getting from Elon. Well, she's now recently filed a lawsuit against Elon Musk. And I thought I had a video pulled up that was talking about that. Let me see real quick. I thought I had a video that was going over all of that, but maybe I don't. Anyways, it turns out, and people are speculating that potentially this was a form of entrapment by Ashley St. Clair. She had made post multiple times in the last 5 years about wanting to get pregnant by Elon Musk. And so here it is. This is what I thought I had over here. Let me bring this up. Where were we? Okay. Anyways, you get it. It's like right here. So this is a little bit of an overview of like what's going on. So she has now filed a lawsuit for sole custody. Many suspect to try to get an enormous child support claim against Elon Musk. But it's very interesting because Elon Musk has yet to comment on this publicly at all. And Ashley St. Clair has actually lied about her age. So she claims that she's 26 years old. And because of all this stuff, people that knew her in college have come out and said, no, there's no way she's 26 years old. Turns out she's like 31, 32. And she's been trying to present herself as much younger than she actually is. And people that went to college with her claim that she was kind of a whore, that she slept around, that she would go to these frat parties, and that within one particular post I saw, he claimed that he was in a frat and she basically slept with every guy that was in it. So, take from that whatever you will. Milo Yiannopoulos, who, don't fully trust, not even fully convinced he's still heterosexual, and that's going to come up actually today. he is kind of the one, he always has like info on people's drama and things that people don't have. Well, according to him, Ashley St. Clair actually rode on his tour bus, or when he was doing a tour in like, Milo was big in what, 2016, 2017, something around there. And she slept with everybody besides Milo and his assistant. And at the time, Milo was a gay married man, or if you get the point. And so that has come out too, that she basically opens her legs quite often. And then she made all these posts about how Kamala Harris can't, improve in the world. That without like getting on her knees or laying on her back, she can't advance herself in her political career. And then interestingly enough, Ashley St. Clair began to delete all this stuff on her X page, Twitter page, that made any reference to like women selling themselves for sex, which makes you think that this was some type of contract. And maybe it's going to come out regarding the lawsuit that this was negotiated between Elon Musk, that, Elon's never married any of these women. I think he's got 4 or 5 baby mamas. If the accusations are true, this is his 13th child. And there's, interesting enough, and I'm going to show you some of this, is that apparently Elon wanted to only communicate with Ashley through Signal, and that their messages were time constricted and were like self-deleted after a certain period of time so that they could see him. And Ashley St. Clair documented all of these messages that Elon was sending her, these private messages, which would make you think, why would a woman who's having a baby or knew that she was pregnant with Elon's child begin to document every single message he sends her that are supposed to self-delete after a certain period of time, unless this was all planned ahead? And so what I'm beginning to think is that this isn't, Elon Musk finding another concubine. Maybe that was what he thought was happening. It seems like he fell into his own sort of honeypot operation, and that she's going to extract massive amounts of wealth from him. And he has yet to make any public comment on this, other than a message exchange that I will show you here in a second. But this little video here is going to kind of sum up the legal aspect of all this different stuff.
Ashley St. Clair is seeking legal action. According to court documents obtained by People magazine and TMZ, the 26-year-old influencer has filed a custody petition with the New York Supreme Court asking to be granted sole legal custody of her and Elon Musk's alleged son, who goes by RSC, amid the tech mogul's absence. She says of Elon's presence in the filing, per the outlets, that the billionaire, quote, has met him only 3 times since the baby's birth in September of 2024, and, quote, has had no involvement in his care and upbringing. Along with the custody petition, Ashley has also filed a paternity petition claiming that Elon has, quote, acknowledged parentage of the child in various written correspondences. In the document, Ashley also provides screenshots of alleged text message exchanges following the baby's birth, with Elon saying at the time, quote, I look forward to seeing you and him this weekend. Following the news, Ashley's rep shared in a statement to People that the 26-year-old has, quote, made every effort to collaborate with Mr. Musk before taking this step. She has no further comment on the contents of the petitions, which speak for themselves. E! News has reached out to Elon and Ashley for comment, but has not yet heard back. Ashley's legal filing comes a week after she made the public announcement on Valentine's Day that she allegedly welcomed Elon's 13th child. Writing on X, formerly Twitter, 5 months ago, I welcomed a new baby into the world. Elon Musk is the father. I have not previously disclosed this to protect our child's privacy and safety, but in recent days, it has become clear that the tabloid media intends to do so, regardless of the harm it will cause. The author.
Now, the ironic thing about this is the day before she does an expose with the New York Post where they do a photo shoot and she goes into details about her relationship with Elon, that she posts this on Valentine's Day. I'm under the suspicion that this woman she documented all of his messages, that this was sort of premeditated in the event that Elon Musk didn't choose her or wife her up, or that she would be the first wife of Elon, or that she would be around him and all his celebrity status along with Trump. And that she was frustrated that apparently Elon doesn't reach out and he hasn't responded to her in like months. And she saw videos where he was with one of his other baby mamas who he has 3 children with on Valentine's Day. And so it sounds like she's just jealous that she isn't that special. And she basically had all this stuff documented to blackmail him and essentially extract money from him. So I'm going to show you some of that stuff in a
So the
second.
2021 children's book, Elephants Are Not Birds, continued.
And mind you, she already is a single mother. So I already talked about her sexual escapades and how very generous she is with opening her legs. Well, she already has a child by a different guy who actually intended to marry her, wanted to give her a traditional family because she's this conservative e-girl. And she turned it down because she thought that she could get a higher profile man and she didn't want to settle down. So she already has another child. Now she has another one, both by different dads, and she's not married to either one of them.
I intend to allow our child to grow in a normal and safe environment. For that reason, I ask that the media honor our child's privacy and refrain from invasive reporting. Elon has not appeared to publicly acknowledge the child.
So that's kind of what's going on now. I think media has some of this stuff. So this is like one post again, talking about how premeditated is this, that it's becoming more and more obvious, according to this post, that Ashley St. Clair was an Israeli honeypot to compromise Elon. According to court filings, they conceived their child merely 20 days before he started wearing the Israeli hostages necklace and a yarmulke at events with Ben Shapiro. And this is a post that she had with Ron Coleman, where she referred to him as her boss. So this has led to some interesting speculation. Again, we don't have full information regarding this stuff, but I had the back and forth that Elon. So Elon's only made one post regarding the situation, and it was kind of a post that was derogatory towards Ashley. And so let me see. I think I have that pulled up somewhere. So this is WikiLeaks exposes that the mother of Elon Musk's new child, Ashley St. Clair, was being managed by PR strategist Brian Glicklich, who was previously received $598,000 from an Israeli security firm. Again, kind of furthering the suspicion here of what's really going on. This is a Syrian girl. She has some interesting insight, especially regarding Palestine. She says the right word for Ashley St. Clair is concubine. His other 2 concubines, Siobhan Zillis, who is with on Valentine's Day, and Grimes, have given him 3 children each. So that'd be 6. He also has 6 more children with other women. It's important to note these children were not accidents. Ashley announced she was getting off birth control, and Elon congratulated it. Grimes even used a surrogate so she can have 2 children every 7 months apart. The system we live in is now a modern-day feudalist system with Elon as emperor. I don't know if I'd go that far, but what's more interesting is to think about what type of woman would consider such an appointment and what are its terms. Grimes is an oddity because she had money and success in her own right, but she was the first concubine, so may not have realized she was one, though Musk was having children with Siobhan simultaneously. Musk's first wife, okay, so he was married previously, was the most attractive. He met her when she was 18, and she gave him 6 children. Wow. Curiously, his concubines have been progressively less and less attractive and accomplished, ending with Ashley St. Clair, who was a former sex worker. The conclusion is that with modern-day concubines, there's a focus on quantity over quality, because quality would demand more than such a life. So this was, I thought, hilarious. It shows he literally just nutted in me and then started playing video games. And then this person used AI to turn Elon Musk into an African American. And I saw posts saying Elon truly is African American because of some of this stuff. And so this is what I wanted to show. So this was in reference to, so there was a post showing that previously Ashley St. Clair had made comments about wanting to have a baby with Elon Musk, and he responded by saying, "Whoa." And then she says, "Elon, we have been trying to communicate for the past several days and you have not responded. When are you going to reply to us instead of publicly responding to smears from an individual who posted photos of me in underwear at 15 years old?" Meanwhile, she was 15 years old and she was posting very sexualized photos of herself that people were sharing online to try to highlight the potential character of who Ashley St. Clair is. And then she replied, "It's interesting that Elon is responding to this clearly in jest screenshot that was discussed with his team months ago in a documented call. Now he decides to respond to it publicly from an account that posted underage photos of me as if he wasn't asking me to have more children last week. I would like to take this offline for our child's sake and have been attempting so for weeks." So, and this was one of the things. So, not a huge Louis C.K. fan as of late. Obviously, you guys know the scandal he had years ago where he had a weird kind of sexual fetish in which he liked to masturbate in front of women. And so women would come to his office and he would like actually ask if he could do that in front of them. And apparently multiple women he did this in front of. And one of them complained and filed a sexual harassment and essentially ruined Louis C.K.'s public career. I really don't know what he does now, but he still is pretty active on X. And he made a comment that I totally agree with. So Louis C.K. is not the paragon of virtue, but he made a comment that Elon Musk, like just populating the world and having as many children as possible with no intention of being in their lives, is actually demonic. Now, he didn't use the word demonic. He said it was a disgrace and that he could never respect a man, no matter how much money he has, who wants to father children then not be in their lives. Rightfully so. Totally agree with that. So I'm not either on either side. I think Elon Musk is a weird dude, and I'm getting ready to show you guys stuff about where he thinks he's creating an AI god in a conversation with Jordan Peterson. I've already talked about the Neuralink, all the stuff that Elon Musk is trying to do, turn X into the America WeChat, which is the Chinese all and everything app, your bank, your social media, everything. So I certainly don't see Elon Musk as any savior whatsoever. And I'm certainly not here to defend him whatsoever, but this whole situation is very strange. And if Ashley St. Clair is accurate and that she did have a negotiated, maybe a contract with Elon Musk to have his child, and then he actually doesn't respond to her once she has what she claims is a 5-month-old baby, that is pretty disgraceful too. Now, whether, again, you're the idiot that impregnated a crazy e-girl, former sex worker. That's you, Elon Musk. You did that. But once you have the child, to not engage with her, to make no public comment about you being the potential father, to have no intention of being in his life. And apparently he didn't want his name on the birth certificate. That was another rumor that was going around, is that Elon was basically, this negotiation is he was going to pay for the child. He was going to pay for extravagant, nice lifestyle for Ashley St. Clair, but he didn't want to be the official father on document records. And that's why part of the lawsuit is that she's using these private text messages that they sent on Signal to justify the fact that he actually knew he was the father the whole time, so that I assume she can extract child support from him. So very weird stuff. Matthew Johnson sends in $5, says Memphis as a city is in terrible shape. That's what I've heard. Never been to Memphis. They will need to spend a lot of money to fix it up. And then he says, love your channel. Thank you so much, Matthew. God bless you, brother. He says, watch the interview on PBD podcast from today. Brazil is living under a Marxist regime, and President Bolsonaro can restore Brazil to its former glory and beyond. Well, God willing. I thought Bolsonaro, he's kind of a traditional Catholic guy. So I think he had a lot of things, another nationalist, a lot of things that I thought were very positive. And of course, there was a Marxist coup that was backed by the United States to make sure that he didn't win the election. When was that? Was that also in 2020? I think that was also in 2020. So I've heard about some of the stuff going on in Brazil, and certainly it is a sort of Marxist regime, a globalist regime has taken over the country Brazil, which is the biggest country in South America and Central America, and basically can do what they will and exert their influence and power. So God willing, Bolsonaro can take power. Somebody was mentioning the Telegram, and I think I had a post by Uber Boyo on X. Let me see if I can find that real quick. As you can see, there's so many. I try to bookmark everything, but then sometimes the bookmarks, there's so many that it's hard to get everything because it goes back for 2 weeks. But I think Uber Boyo posted about the CEO of Telegram having like 100 children through IVF. Let me see if come on, internet. Let me see if that'll pull up. Hello. Okay, so apparently my internet's not working. Okay, there it goes. Let me see. Bookmarks. It was Uber Boyo. Did I have that? Let me put in Uber Boyo IVF. Here it is. So Musk has 13 children, with most from IVF, and that was according to Grok. So I don't know how many were actually due to normal conception of children through regular sex, but the Telegram CEO has never married, lives alone, and has 100 children through IVF. Peter Thiel, Sam Altman, and others are pouring money into future tech fertility solutions that allow for IQ, height, and health selection, which is true and very wild. This is so 39-year-old Telegram CEO is father to over 100 biological kids. Is it possible? Billionaire tech mogul is offering women free IVF treatments, but there's a catch. They must use his sperm. And says the family is part of the next boom to hit Silicon Valley. Fertility tech for producing super babies. High-profile tech entrepreneurs like OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, who is a homosexual and just purchased another child. That was news within the last week, is that him and his husband literally purchased the child from somebody's womb. 23andMe CEO Ann Wojcicki and billionaire entrepreneur Peter Thiel are backing startups with names such as Orchid Health, Gattaca Genomics, and Genomic Prediction. These companies promise to tell prospective parents how to mitigate more risk and capitalize on life's potential. They offer to screen embryos for multi-gene conditions such as heart disease, diabetes, and depression. It's going to become insane not to screen for these things, the founder and CEO of Orchid has said. Interesting. And then the next one says, Elon Musk baby were conceived via IVF and surrogacy. Is it the future of reproduction? So very interesting. I did have a bookmark. Couldn't find where it was. So very weird and interesting things going on here as of late. Man, I don't know what happened on my X stuff. Let me spark all this back up. So we saw that meme. Pretty funny stuff. Let's see what's next. Eastern Orthodoxy throws in $5, says, I drive through Memphis and my company tells me not to park in Memphis at all. The crime there is really bad. I have heard that multiple times. So God bless you, Eastern Orthodoxy. Stay safe. I've heard Memphis is actually a very crime-ridden place. It's almost like South Chicago. And very similar demographics from what I've heard. William throws in 5, says, please do a stream exploring kayfabe as a hermeneutic of modern political theater. We are being led to bash the Democrat and ignore the technocrat. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the technocrats are the greatest enemy and I think, and I've talked about this. This is why I think that so many technocrats are big, like MAGA supporters now. It has nothing to do with conservative political ideology. It has to do with they're using and harnessing the power of Trump and his political support to essentially create the infrastructure for what they want to build. So that's a really good idea, William. Really appreciate that. God bless you, brother. So anyways, I want to show you guys this video, a little bit interesting, and talking about interfaith celebrities, Ivanka's Jewish wedding. So marrying into power, coincidence or strategy?
Marrying into all the positions of power. Here's an interesting list, starting with Donald Trump's daughter, Ivanka, who married Jared Kushner of Israeli roots. Bill and Hillary Clinton's daughter, Chelsea Clinton, married Mark Mezvinsky of Israeli roots. Back in the day, kings and queens married kings and queens to increase power and secure power. But married...
That says Joe Biden, all 3 of his adult children married Jewish people. Very interesting.
Being into power is also infiltrating power and keeping that power within a small circle. Kamala Harris, her husband, Doug Emhoff, is of Israeli roots. The British royal family, Prince Harry married Meghan Markle, who also has Israeli roots.
Now, who knew? I did not know that Meghan Markle is actually Jewish. What? I didn't know that, but it certainly makes sense.
Christianity and Islam are inclusive. They welcome everybody, recruit everybody, and have an open door to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor or what country you're from. But others are more exclusive and only marry into power and don't advertise or recruit to anybody else. They only aim for the top. Nikki Hilton married a Rothschild, as in, yes, that Rothschilds. And now that empire will belong to them too. Kanye West's wife, Bianca. Yep, that's what she is right there. Didn't see that coming with Kanye's views. John F. Kennedy, he did not marry somebody of Israeli roots. And look what happened to him.
So, again, that's just throwing that out there. I thought it was a little interesting video that so many of our political elite do seem to marry people from a particular ethnic background. So take that for what it's worth. Next thing I want to get into, let's see what it is. I can't see them all now. I got to refresh it. This is an interesting video. So this is Errol Musk, the father of Elon Musk, saying that the Jewish people are so heavily integrated into Western society. 50% of my friends are Jews, and I'm about 1/8 Jewish or something like that. So Elon is part Jewish as well. So we favor the Jewish people very much. So check out this little interview with Errol Musk.
Back in 2023, Elon actually responded to a tweet. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Well, there was a tweet that someone put up that said, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites they claim to want people to stop using against them. I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest shit now about Western Jewish populations, coming to the disturbing realization that hordes of minorities that support flooding their country don't exactly like them too much. You want the truth? Set it to your face. There it is. And then Elon actually responded to that tweet and said, you have said the actual truth.
Well, you know.
Now, mind you, I believe Vlad of Vlad TV is a Russian Jewish man who is like big in like the hip hop culture and the sort of black culture. He talks with a lot of rappers and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how Errol Musk got involved with Vlad TV. But I thought that's a good little context for the conversation.
What was he saying? He's saying it's a good thing or a bad thing to have people coming into your country, or what is your problem?
Well, it was two different parts. So the first thing is saying that Jewish communities push a hatred against whites that they claim that they want people to stop doing to them. That's the first part.
I haven't seen that. I've never seen that.
And the second one is, I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest shit about how Western Jewish populations coming to the disturbing realization that the hordes of minorities that support flooding their country don't exactly like them too much. So I guess they're saying that the immigrants that are coming into these countries don't like Jewish people either. That's the gist of it. And then Elon's response, he tweeted a response that said, you have said the actual truth.
You know, I can't imagine what he means or even what your statement means. First of all, the Jewish people are so heavily integrated into Western society. 50% of my friends are Jewish. I'm about 1/8 Jewish or something because my mother's grandfather was a Jewish guy. Elon, that for that matter, then would be also a little bit. But, we favor the Jewish people very much. So we love them. I mean, they're such smart people. How can you not favor them?
Interesting, right? So maybe that makes a little bit more sense with kind of Elon's public stance on Israel and how he kind of did a 180. Matthew Johnson throws in $10. Thank you so much. Matthew says, we need a new political party run by an American Orthodox politician, advised by American Orthodox clergy, run for congressman. You'd easily be able to start there. I bet you'd get a lot of support. I agree. I bet you would, because at least they would have a religious institution backing them in some of their very traditional kind of conservative cultural claims. But I don't know. God willing, that's something that somebody wants to do. Because, I mean, at this point, who wants to really get into politics? It's such a dirty business. But I thought this was noteworthy because I had never heard, I've heard speculation that Elon Musk may be Jewish or that his family may have Jewish heritage. We've talked about how his grandfather was part of a global technocratic movement in the early 20th century, and potentially his mother is part. But now we know for a fact, according to his dad, that they are. So, again, we'll just play that little section again real quick.
The Jewish people are so heavily integrated into Western society. 50% of my friends are Jewish. I'm about 1/8 Jewish or something, because my mother's grandfather was a Jewish guy. Elon, that for that matter, then would be also a little bit. But, we favor the Jewish people very much. So we love them. I mean, they're such smart people. How can you not favor them? But, I can't understand what that means. And I certainly can't imagine that people coming into a country particularly isolate one group of people.
And the point of the tweet was not that the immigrants that are being flooded into white countries hate the Jews, even though they kind of do, some of them, at least the Muslims. But, Hispanics don't really have a problem with it. They got a Jewish president in Mexico, but they certainly hate the indigenous white populations of the cultures that they're moving into.
Like, let's say the Jews or something, and don't like.
And in Europe, flooding Europe with Muslims do typically hate Israel and Jews for historical reasons. But all that does is cause internal conflict and tension within these European nations, which makes them much easier to control. And you look at things like Germany and Britain. I mean, you cannot criticize Israel. Thank God for Ireland. Ireland's one of the last refuges of European men with a backbone. But, my wife's German, and so we follow German news fairly often, and it's just sad. It's sad what's going on in Germany. I mean, just a totally defeated people.
Like them. It's conceivable. It's conceivable because if many of the people coming in, let's say, are from the Muslim world, well, there's a sort of, you sort of brought up in the Muslim world to be at odds with the Jewish people, conceivably. I can't say for sure. On the other hand, I've just spent 2 weeks in Dubai with the Sheikh of Dubai as a guest of his. And these are the finest people you could ever imagine. And not the slightest kind of, dislike for anyone. They're very proud people in their own right. So I think it's just nonsense, utter nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, these things are blown out of proportion sometimes, and sometimes you respond to tweets.
Matthew says, the world has changed under President Trump, and being a congressman will be a job it was always meant to be. Please contact your local representative or Republican Party rep. They'll recognize talent. Yeah, if that's something you guys want to do it. I think we absolutely need more Orthodox people. We need more Orthodox doctors. We need more Orthodox lawyers. We need more Orthodox politicians, so that our worldview, our paradigm, our phronema can actually exert some type of real world influence outside of just our local religious communities. So if that's something you feel called to, and also if you feel called to be a priest, I think all the jurisdictions are in need of young men right now to become priests. That they're scrambling. I know the Antiochians are, for example, are really hurting on trying to get young men to become priests. So politics, law, medicine, being clergy, these are all things that we need more Orthodox men to step up to. So I totally agree, Matthew. Thank you very much, man. Yeah, we're going to get into Tucker Carlson and Dan Crenshaw for sure. So I already got that stuff pulled up. We'll be getting to it in just a second. So anyway, just wanted to show you guys that clip because it's been speculated. Nobody knows for sure. I've seen speculation that Musk may be Jewish, but who knows? Anyways, this I thought was very interesting. So this is a post by a Canadian woman. So this was going kind of viral. This Martin guy said, "Hey, Canadians, look what you can buy in Texas with $599,000." Essentially insinuating that this particular house would be close to $1 million, 800 some thousand, and or he's just saying it's 785 in Canadian money. But Canada right now, and some of you guys may be in Canada, Canada is experiencing a major housing crisis. I mean, the affordability of housing is just skyrocketing in Canada right now. And this Canadian woman responds, "Nice house. Can my daughter get reproductive care? Can't put a price on freedom." And my initial thought was, who in their right mind on a discussion on the affordability of living and housing immediately goes to, but can my young daughter have promiscuous sex and get an abortion? It's like, you deserve very expensive housing. If that's your priority, is that your daughter can have promiscuous, unprotected sex and that there'd be no consequences for it, you you are a demon. So truly wild and unrelatable response for sure. The Panelverse throws in a super sticker for $2 Canadian. What is that? 50 cents? I'm just kidding. Thank you very much, Panelverse. God bless you, bro. Really appreciate it. So wild stuff. And this leads into the next post. So these are a little bit of my criticisms of Canada. Because there was all these posts going around of these Canadians like talking about Trump, and I even have one from today that Jameet Singh, one of the representatives in the Canadian Parliament, I think he's the head of the Conservative Party or something. He wants to ban Donald Trump from the G7 and from entering Canada. And so I just been noticing that there's this rhetoric, and it's obviously limited. It's progressive people voicing their opinions online on X, but there just seems to be so few Canadians that are like just proud nationalistic men with traditional values. And I use this example right here. So this is MAGA cult slayer. "I'm 100% with Canada. This man is serious. This guy's our new spirit animal. I remember when I felt this way about my country. F Donald Trump. It's the world versus MAGA." And so I want to show you this video of this seemingly very traditional masculine Canadian man and his response.
Well, howdy. Every day I get questioned as to what my thoughts are on Canada becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. My kin were here before this country got started, and every fucking generation they've been here, they gave their blood, sweat, and fucking tears so that the generations...
Pardon the language, guys. Pardon the language. I know that kind of language normally doesn't appear on this channel. So if you have children around, please hit mute until this video's over.
Coming after them could have a better place than they had. And now, because of a bunch of inept and corrupt politicians, I got the fucking arrogance of the U.S. president telling me that there's a fucking monetary value to my sovereignty, and I will gladly give my fucking life defending every sacrifice, every dream, and every fucking hope that my family had, everything that they did so that I could be here. Mind your own fucking business, Donald. Square up your own country and leave mine the fuck alone.
Now, mind you, Canada is being bombarded with massive immigration. Canada is in an economic crisis because there is a massive trade deficit between us and the U.S. And the U.S. did this, I believe, during like the World War II period so that Canada would be strengthened. And because we were in such a positive place at the time, that America basically agreed to have a asymmetrical trade with Canada so that Canada's So Canada's economy would be stronger within wartime years. And it's basically been perpetuated ever since. The whole conversation of Canada becoming the first 51st state, which isn't going to happen. It was just total rhetoric about getting them to a negotiating table. That's what Donald Trump does. He says something way up here so that reality then comes down here when we were down here. So to meet in the middle, it's the art of the deal. And to be so proud of the way that Canada is right now is like totally missing the point. And that's what this post was highlighting that I wanted to show you guys. So Truly nothing more pathetic than a Canadian boomer miming patriotic bravado in the face of a completely imaginary threat of American invasion when he willingly and happily already gave his entire country away for cheap labor, head pats, and fun treats. Where was this patriotic bravado when every business from Tim Hortons to trucking companies became overrun with nepotistic Indians? All right. This has been a big thing because apparently Tim Hortons has been only employing like Indians, and that they've even been like firing like some of the Canadians, indigenous, you say indigenous, but in the Canadian sense, that means the Native Americans, but the white Canadians, we'll just put it that way. Where was this patriotic bravado when his kids and grandkids needed to move out of their towns, cities, and even provinces to find work because they were competing with the entire third world for a single entry level job? Where was this patriotic bravado when the streets became unsafe to walk at night because the government opened the floodgates to infinity unvetted Africans and Syrians? Where was this patriotic bravado when it became impossible to get a doctor's appointment because the clinics were crammed full of newcomers who were given priority? He wants to declare this is my effing country over a few jokes about, but never had the balls to do it when it really mattered. Now, it's no one in everyone's country, a post-national state that stands for nothing, believes in nothing, and can do nothing. And that's kind of the state that Canada's in. I mean, they have no military power. They have tons of natural resources, but they're bombarded by this leftist green agenda. They don't even want to harness the natural resources that they have. What's going on in Canada? What is going on in Canada? Yeah. Melly says Canada is now India Junior. It certainly feels that way. And so let me show you the next one. This is, oh no, where is the Jasmine Singh? I had one of the Canadian. Here it is right here. So Jagmeet Singh, so he's a Sikh. So he's Northern Indian Punjab, from the Punjab. He's Punjabi. And this was from today. So this was like breaking news today. This is him giving some type of formal speech in Canada today.
I also believe we need to ban Donald Trump from attending the G7 summit. Donald Trump should not be welcome here. Why would we invite someone who has threatened our very democracy, our very sovereignty? Why would we invite someone who has threatened our economic well-being? Why would we invite someone who threatens our allies and threatens the world's stability? Why would we allow a convicted criminal into our country? Why would we invite someone who has such disdain for multilateral organizations? Instead, what we should do is use the G7 summit as an opportunity to work with our allies on a plan to resist Donald Trump and his dangerous threats to the world.
So here's the thing, though. Canada basically cannot compete globally without the help of the United States. Same thing is true with Europe, especially militarily. So Canada and Europe are in the same military state, and it's in where U.S. is essentially their bodyguard. And that's why Europe right now is just absolutely freaking out about Trump threatening that the U.S. is going to pull out of NATO and potentially the UN. And so without the United States and NATO, which we basically fund, that was the whole thing that Trump always brags about, is trying to get them to pay 2% of their GDP towards NATO for their own military defense, that especially the Nordic countries like Finland and some of those northeastern European nations, Latvia and stuff, they have had this like bravado and rhetoric against Russia. And now that Trump's threatening to pull out of NATO, they're totally exposed. They can't do anything. They're helpless. They're absolutely helpless as nations. And so it's just kind of a pathetic state that this social justice type, virtue signaling presentation by these politicians, both in Europe and in America and in Canada, it's just going to get them in further trouble. I mean, you think that the smart thing to do is just flatter Donald Trump. If you don't like Donald Trump and you really want to play some 4D chess, flatter Donald Trump and then get him and maneuver him in ways that he'll make deals for things that you actually want. if you come out and say stuff like this, he's going to use the leverage he has to smash you. Like, it's like Donald Trump 101. That's what you want to do. So I just don't get it. I want to come back to this one. So this is a video that I thought was hilarious of Alex Stein actually confronting Dan Crenshaw. So I wanted to go over, have you guys been seeing the feud between Tucker Carlson and Dan Crenshaw? So this video came out as of recent, where Dan Crenshaw, when he thought the camera wasn't recording with GBN News, which is like a conservative news outlet in Great Britain, says that if he ever met Tucker Carlson, he would kill him. So here's the video.
Have you ever met Tucker?
So he said, we have talked a lot online, but we've never met in person. If I meet him, I would kill him. And that's what he said. So this was going viral. What was it? So 2 days ago, this was going viral. And you're Dan Crenshaw trying to kill Tucker Carlson. Funny. So here's a little clip of why Dan Crenshaw has so much animosity towards Tucker. It has to do with things that he said about him.
Dan Crenshaw cannot be a congressman again. You just can't. It's just too insulting. Why is it that Republican states tend to have the least sincere Republican? Dan Crenshaw apparently still a member of Congress. And the next time Dan Crenshaw stands up and says, but you don't understand the threat. Shut up, Dan Crenshaw. Just about had it with you. Neocon Congressman Dan Crenshaw, Nikki Haley of Texas. The single most left-wing member of Congress I've ever met personally is a Republican from this area who has no interest in the United States whatsoever. Does not even pretend. I'm not going to name names. Yeah, it's Dan Crenshaw, the most liberal, most left-wing person I've ever met.
And so they're easily bullshitted by the posturing jackasses in Washington.
That's why Dan Crenshaw has a job. You, Dan Crenshaw, you're the one whose own children languished and died while you focused on the neighbor's kids. That person is an enemy of everything that you voted for.
So all that criticism has to do with Dan Crenshaw is one of the biggest warmongers regarding Ukraine. And he's kind of upset with the fact that Trump is getting ready to end this war and find a resolution to it. So he's notorious for like posturing on like border the securing the border, mass immigration, this type, but he doesn't do anything. When you look at his voting record, I mean, my gosh, he votes with the Democrats all the time. He's just pro-war. And that's where he gets the nickname Eye Patch McCain, because he really is like John McCain of old. So, I wanted to, so anyways, one of these posts, I don't know if I have it, but Dan Crenshaw responds to Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, I heard that Dan Crenshaw wanted to kill my friend Tucker Carlson. And he replied, no, it didn't happen. And then people started sharing this video around of him saying what he said. So now I want to go back to Alex Stein. Shout out to Alex Stein, pimp on a blimp, confronting Dan Crenshaw and getting absolutely under his skin today. So this happened earlier today. This is recent news.
He's trying to grab my thing. Look, you're too slow. He's too slow, Nate. Man, you're just such a little loser. That's it. He's trying to grab my thing. Look, you're too slow. He's too slow, Navy SEAL. It's funny, Dan, how you said you're tall. I'm small, but I'm so much taller than you, Dan. I'm so much bigger than you. You're a little sad little boy. I'm the little one. This is, yeah, imagine me calling you out because you're a globalist. Oh, I got a job. I work for the Blaze. I make a lot of money. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do, Dan. Yeah, I make a lot of money. Yeah, I'm a loser.
Project. This is the guy who tells veterans that their service.
Yeah, because those are weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist. So I'm anti-war. Yeah. Yeah, I'm anti-war because I don't believe. Did you guys find any weapons of mass destruction?
As a matter of fact, we did.
Oh, where was? Oh, what weapons of mass destruction?
You're actually going to go down this route, Alex.
Yeah, because we don't have any weapons of mass destruction.
You're looking like a fool right now.
I'm
you're
the
telling
fool. You're
veterans,
the one that's giving more money to Ukraine. We have a homelessness. We have so many issues here in America. He cares more about Ukraine. Yeah, it was. You guys' service was wasted
You're
for
disgusting.
globalists and bankers.
You are the modern day.
Yeah, oh, I'm the modern day version.
People who
You
spit
worry
on
more about
Vietnam
Ukraine
veterans.
than our border.
You are
care
the
more
modern
about,
day
he cares more about Ukraine than he does about America. So you're a globalist. Why don't you take care of America? You don't care. That's your problem, Dan. You don't care about America. You don't care about Texas. We're gonna. Do you think there's an invasion? Is there an invasion on our border right now? Is there an invasion on our border right now?
Maybe you should go back.
I still am a comedian. Is there an invasion on our border? Will you admit that there's an invasion on our border?
An invasion on our
Yeah, but you won't do anything about it. But why do you give 80 billion to Ukraine? Why do you give 80 billion to Ukraine?
I think you're getting the numbers wrong there, buddy.
Oh, what are we at? 100 billion now?
No, it's not even close.
What are we up to now, Dan? And they even say none of those weapons even go to the front lines. So why don't you start caring about America? You don't care about America at all, Dan. You're a globalist. You're a traitor. You're a dwarf. There's Dan Crenshaw. Come on. Come on, dude.
Modern day version of the people.
Oh, I'm a piece of shit. You're the one that's a globalist. You're killing young children for no reason, sending them to war for nothing.
I gotta be ID. Yeah, you're harassing a member. Also, harassing a member.
Well, am I under arrest?
No, you're being stopped. All right, now you're being stopped. Station identification. You can hand it to her.
Thank you. For future reference, when you're wanting to interview members, you cannot physically stop them from going their way.
I'm not trying to talk back. I didn't physically stop anybody.
I'm just letting you know from what we were getting from members of the public was that you were harassing members that were trying to go back and forth to their votes. You are not allowed to do that. So I'm going to let you know the rules and the laws that you are being told that you are breaking. And I'm going to let you know that that's what you cannot do.
Okay, am I allowed to leave?
You are allowed to leave.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. This is just trying to ask politicians some questions, and then they come and detain me. What a joke.
So you gotta love it. A little bit contentious, hard to understand what they're saying at points, but you know, I despise Dan Crenshaw and everything that he stands for. He's an absolute neocon shill, and even former Navy SEALs that served with him have called him out. Most notably, I don't know if they served with him, but a former Navy SEAL, Sean Ryan, who has and there's a lot of questions with him. He worked with the CIA and stuff, but Sean Ryan seems like a decent guy. Who knows the sincerity or whether there's ulterior motives there, but he has some great interviews. I've really gotten a lot from some of the interviews he's had, but Sean Ryan has come out and has absolutely condemned Dan Crenshaw along with multiple people that served with him. So Dan Crenshaw is not even supported by his own Navy SEAL community, and they have claimed that he has embellished some of his war stories and things that he claimed that he was a part of. And so he always goes back. So he recently had a conversation with Glenn Greenwald on Piers Morgan. I don't know if you guys saw some of this, and he cannot take any form of criticism. In fact, why don't we check it out real quick? So let me see. We'll go. Where's that YouTube link? We'll go YouTube. Glenn Greenwald, who is a homosexual, by the way, but is Dan Crenshaw. So this is a little bit covering the interview that they had over on Piers Morgan. You can see Dan Crenshaw cannot defend himself like logically. All he resorts to is, well, you didn't serve in the military. You don't know what it's like to be in the military and stuff like this. So check this out.
Glenn Greenwald, great to have you back on Uncensored. What do you make of this? I mean, Trump, at the very least, what he's done is immediately reestablish diplomatic ties with Russia. Do you think that's a good move?
I actually do think it's good for the two countries with the world's largest nuclear stockpiles that have come close to nuclear Armageddon in the past to actually speak to one another. I think one of the worst parts of the last decade in Washington, the Russiagate hoax and all of that, was that it created a climate where it was almost criminal for American officials to speak to Russians. Even during the Cold War, when we viewed each other as existential threats, we had all sorts of open communication. The Russians would come to the United States. We would hear from their leaders. Our leaders would go over there and speak. Of course, these kinds of communications are vital. Trump deserves a lot of credit for opening that up. It's dangerous to the world when the Russians and the Americans don't speak. And I think we have to begin with, since we all love democracy here so much, we're also eager to advance it around the world in between arming and propping up the Saudis and Egyptians. But in general, we're good people. We love democracy. We just had an election in 2020.
So he's being a little tongue in cheek there, because I went back and tried to watch some of this Piers Morgan uncensored interview, and shout out to Andrew Wilson. He's been on Piers Morgan a few times, but Dan Crenshaw went on and on about how Americans sending money to Ukraine is part of our American ethos of supporting and defending democracy around the world. So that was his whole thing, is that the reasons why we have to do it is because Putin's an existential threat to Europe. He wants, like Stalin, wants to conquer all of the European continent, which isn't true, just factually not true whatsoever. And therefore, we need, as Americans, need to send all of our taxpayers, tax-paying money to Ukraine so that they can defend their democracy. Of course, Zelensky himself isn't elected. They're under martial law, so they've never held elections, even though U.S., we held presidential elections during the Civil War. Apparently Ukraine can't hold an election right now. And so he has arrested all his political opposition and has arrested, we've already talked about before, him arresting the Orthodox clergy there of the true Ukrainian Orthodox Church. And we're going to actually have a clip that it highlights a little bit about that conflict and how Patriarch Bartholomew has essentially worked with the globalist regime to been planning to recognize this fake jurisdiction. But anyways, just to give you context on why it's sort of tongue-in-cheek what Greenwald was saying.
24, in which the winning candidate, Donald Trump, went around saying, not as an ancillary view, but as central to his campaign, it's time that we keep American money in the United States for American citizens. We have to stop funding all of these foreign wars where our country's not at risk, and specifically said he wants to end the war in Ukraine. The Biden-Kamala Harris view, the view of the Democratic Party, was, no, we can't talk to the Russians. We have to fund Ukraine until the very last Ukrainian is dead in order to expel all Russian troops from Ukrainian soil. A complete pipe dream from the start. And Americans voted for the candidate who said he wanted to end U.S. involvement in the war. That should matter. If we love democracy so much, Americans, and I think that's what Trump, above everything, whether you disagree with him or agree with him, and I have both, is following through on what he promised he would do in the campaign. And that kind of responsiveness democratically in the United States is very rare to see.
Yeah. And then Piers went on and talked about this tweet that just went, it was to me how, I don't know, how willing these people are to say blatantly untrue things, as I'll show you.
Every single day.
I just think we should save our fury about whether Ukraine get included or not for when they actually get excluded.
Can I just insert a little bit of realism into the conversation? Yes. Because I know Dan started off by saying, "Oh, Russia's this crappy little second-rate power. We have to flatter them and make them think they matter, but they really don't. They're really weak." It's always a pretty weird contradiction to simultaneously say that and then at the same time warn that Russia's going to start invading Western Europe, this crappy little second-rate power. But the reality is, this is the reality whether you like it or not, Russia has fought a war now for 3 years against unified NATO and the United States, pouring hundreds of billions of dollars and highly sophisticated weapons into Ukraine, and the front line continues to move westward, not eastward, where the Russians are gaining more and more territory, more and more Ukrainians are being killed. There are fewer Ukrainian men left in that country who want to fight. They're being forcibly dragged in there and used as cannon fodder, or they're fleeing and risking their lives to do it. The reality is Russia is winning the war or has won the war. And you can say, oh, you must be a Kremlin agent to say that.
Well, you just got to know nothing about military information or tactics. That's what you have to do to say that. You just have to know nothing.
So it's a fact. It's a fact that Russia's winning the war in Ukraine and that the front lines are continually moving westward and Russia's occupying more and more territory. And even as recent as today, I saw that Putin was willing to actually give back some of the territory they've gained this year to go back to lines that I think were established at the beginning of 2024, where essentially he has the eastern portions of Ukraine. He's not willing to budge on that. So if there's a treaty or a compromise between NATO, the US, and Russia, he is going to get Crimea and he's going to get part of the eastern portion of Ukraine. And Dan Crenshaw is like acting like you have to be a conspiracy theorist to believe that. That's just fact. It's just a fact.
That's clearly what you do.
Yeah, well,
you've got so many facts wrong. It's hard to know where to even start.
You think Ukraine is winning the war? In which direction is the front line moved, Dan? Has it moved westward or eastward?
It depends on where you're looking at.
Depends on where you're looking at. What?
Depends on where you're looking at. I hate to break it to you, but it depends on where you're looking at. And the ratio to Russian deaths to Ukrainian deaths is like 4 to 1.
Not even close. Not even close. It's definitely over 1 million Ukrainians have died. Now, the numbers regarding Russia are a little bit harder to get concrete information for. I've seen as little as 100,000, which would mean that it's a 10-to-1 ratio of Ukrainian deaths to Russian deaths. Now, I've seen as high in regard to the Russian death total as 500,000. I don't know if it's that high or not, but even if it is, that would be 2-to-1 Ukrainians dying per Russian. And if it's what Colonel Douglas McGregor has said, that he believes it's 100,000 or less, that means it's every 10 Ukrainians die, 1 Russian soldier dies. And Dan Crenshaw is trying to convince you that it's 4 Russians per 1 Ukrainian. In what world is this guy living in? It's just total nonsense, absolute nonsense. So, and then the thing that happened, this was what, 2 months ago, that people were posting the investments of Dan Crenshaw, and he just exploded on these like MAGA supporters because they were highlighting that he, like Nancy Pelosi, have like one of the highest returns in their investments, and that they're basically doing insider trading based on the information they know being in Congress. And so he just made a total ass of himself online one night. So this guy is totally despicable and hard to digest for sure. Matthew threw in $10, says, I was suggesting that you were the future congressman. Worth a look, perhaps. Also, I started a new channel, Neopus 2025, if everyone wants to take a look. Well, thank you very much, Matthew. And, you know, right now, my focus is finishing my PhD, which God willing will be in May. Have my dissertation done by April 1st. Take care of my wife, try to build my business, have some type of money to buy a house. And after that, if I felt called to run for office or do something, I may do it. But it's certainly not in the next couple of years. My life's just a little too hectic. So if somebody else feels called to that and they're in a position in their life to do it, I highly recommend it. If God pulls on my heart and I feel convicted to become clergy or run for office, that would be something that I'd be open to in the future. So thank you very much, Matthew, for your generous support tonight, brother. God bless you. Really appreciate it. And Josh Betts, shout out to Redford, Michigan, says the Holy Spirit is at St. Innocent, Redford, Michigan. God bless you, Josh. Really appreciate the support. And shout out to Austin, throwing in $5. Really appreciate you, my man. God willing, we can maybe get to the 20 super chat goal tonight, if possible. We'll see. But next thing that I want to show you guys is, let's see here. Got to refresh everything. Here it is. This is the clip of Elon Musk claiming that he's building the AI God. So I really want you guys to hear this one. Check this out.
You said you were up till 4 a.m.
Yeah,
So-
actually a little more like 5 a.m. But
Okay.
we got the XAI data center or supercomputer center training from beginning installation to start of training in 19 days, which is the fastest that anyone has ever gotten a supercomputer to train.
And is that in that new building off to the side?
That's in Memphis, actually.
It's in Memphis.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's where you were?
Yeah.
I see.
Memphis, the capital of ancient Egypt.
Right. Yeah, you're bringing what?
Perhaps that's where our new God will come from.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
He says, perhaps that's where our new God will come from. Interesting. So again, I've already been warning you guys about Elon Musk and his transhumanism. And I wanted to pair that clip of Elon Musk talking about a sort of AI God that he's trying to build out of Memphis, Tennessee, tied, and he probably deliberately chose it for its symbolic relationship with Memphis, Egypt, the home of the ancient Egyptian gods, tied with a warning that J.D. Vance has basically told Europe to back off regarding their caution concerning the development of advanced artificial intelligence, that the U.S. is going to do it. And I told you before that, you know, J.D. Vance is his mentor was Peter Thiel. So he's kind of deeply embedded within the Silicon Valley tech elite world. And I could totally see if the plan is for him to become president after Trump, I could totally see the implementation of digital IDs, digital currencies, all that stuff being done under JD Vance in the name of conservative policies in America. So it will come packaged in a MAGA agenda, but it's really building the infrastructure for the technocratic globalist world order.
The Trump administration will ensure that the most powerful AI systems are built in the U.S. with American-designed and manufactured chips. And let me be emphatic about this point. America wants to partner with all of you. And we want to embark on the AI revolution before us with a spirit of openness and collaboration. But to create that kind of trust, we need international regulatory regimes that fosters the creation of AI technology rather than strangles it. And we need our European friends in particular to look to this new frontier with optimism rather than trepidation. The screws on U.S. tech companies with international footprints. Many of our most productive tech companies are forced to deal with the EU's Digital Services Act and the massive regulations it created about taking down content and policing so-called misinformation. And of course, we want to ensure the internet is a safe place, but it is one thing to prevent a predator from preying on a child on the internet, and it is something quite different to prevent a grown man or woman from accessing an opinion that the government thinks is misinformation.
So I thought that was interesting that basically he's telling Europe, this is at a speech that he had in Paris, and it was interesting. So some of you guys have probably been following. I don't even have anything on this. I should do a whole stream just covering it, but Emmanuel Macron is married to a man. I think it's quite clear that Brigitte is not the woman that she claims to be. It was a man. Some speculation, according to recent stuff coming from Candace Owens, is that it may even be Macron's father. I mean, as hard as that can, if you can wrap your mind around that, it may be an incestual, pedophilic, transgender relationship. So that is just being out there. I'm not saying that's the case, but certainly I do not believe that she is a woman. So the video when JD Vance and his wife actually went to Paris, JD Vance did not give the sort of European kiss. You know, we don't do that in America, but it's common amongst Europeans when you meet a woman. He did not do that to Brigitte, which made a lot of speculation online that maybe JD Vance knows that Brigitte's actually a man. Don't know. But anyways, thought it was interesting. Rough Hands throws in $5, says, Frank from Quite Frankly podcast said that the 51st state thing is like telling your toddler you're going to take their nose and scream that you can't. That's a pretty good analogy. I like that. Rogue Runner throws in $2, says, all Trojan horses be prepared for false flags. Very likely. And President Sundowner throws in 5, says, take my money. Well, thank you so much, President Sundowner. Do appreciate it. And Matthew Johnson, God bless you, brother. Really appreciate the support this side. Said, maybe a random brother suggesting politics is a sign. Perhaps you could start as an inquirer and make some contacts. Elon, AI, the future. This is why Holy Orthodox input on these matters is critical. Yeah, I agree. Before I even think about it, Matthew, let me at least get this dissertation done. It's been years in the making. I'm right at the finish line. I got one more chapter to write, and I have it. So after that, maybe later this year, maybe next year, I will certainly be open to any offer concerning if I felt called, politics or clergy or whatever it may be. So maybe this is the suggestion I needed, Matthew. We will see. We will see. But I really appreciate all your support tonight, brother. Thank you very much. Melly throws in 5, says, Brigitte was in his 30s and preying on Macron when he was a 14-year-old. Yeah, exactly. And the whole thing about like no photos of Macron, Emmanuel with his father, very, very strange. And then the fact that Brigitte is really her brother, which seems to be quite clear. I mean, all the facial recognition stuff basically shows it. That what we know for a fact, at least from my perspective on looking into this, and maybe I'll do a whole stream on it, is that Brigitte was a man who transitioned in like his mid 30s to late 30s was like 38 years old and apparently had a relationship with the 14-year-old Emmanuel Macron. And the French press made this, and media made it sound like Emmanuel Macron's like the sex magnet. He's this incredibly masculine man and so attractive. And he was able to catch the eye of the love of his life, which was his teacher, his like grammar teacher. No, what it looks like is that it's a pedophilic relationship with a transgender woman, a man, and that this has been hidden. And part of what Candace Owens, she had the French journalist who sort of uncovered all this stuff, and he can no longer be in France, by the way. So France is very serious about limiting any discussion on this topic. But what he insinuated and what Candace Owens was picking up on is there's this very interesting relationship regarding, if you start tracing all the names and some of the birth certificates and stuff like that, that it seems like the Brigitte family, I forget what their last name was, they own like a chocolate business in France, but they're kind of treated like French elite. And Emmanuel's mother was head of like a transgender clinic there in France. And it sounds like, or again, mother, we don't know for sure, sounds like something very strange is going on. And they speculate that the reason why the French government is so insistent about this concept, these ideas not being proliferated, instead of Brigitte just showing a photo when she's pregnant, showing a photo when she was a teenager, they won't do that. They won't show any evidence of Brigitte being a woman before the age of 38. That it has to do with something much deeper, and it has to do with incest. And Candace speculates that this is one of the reasons why the Rothschild family made Macron one of the youngest, I forget what his investors in their family, or something like that. Forgive me, I don't know all the details. I just been looking at this, glancing over it. I haven't watched a bunch of information. That's why maybe it'd be good to do a stream on it. But that the Rothschild somehow elevated Macron and essentially set him up for his political career. And she speculates that, the quote that one of the Rothschild women said is that vice is nice, but incest is best. Potentially talking about how some of these elite families not only are incestual in the sense of marrying their first and second cousins to keep the money in the family, but may have deeper issues, demonic issues in which they are incestual in a pedophilic sense with their own family. Not totally sure, but certainly there's some weird evidence pointing in that direction. RMH223 throws in 5, says shekels. Thank you so much. Appreciate the shekels. God bless you. And Melly throws another 5, says Macron was holding Trump's hand pretty hard as well. Yeah, very, very weird interaction. I feel like Macron tries to out-masculinize Trump. And so like shake hands, Trump always pulls people into him. He did this pretty significantly with Putin when they first met. And it's a way of to demonstrate dominance, that you come towards me. But you can watch videos, very weird body language whenever Macron and Trump interact. So totally agree, Melly. And then Tapio throws in 2, I would vote for you. Well, thank you very much, Tapio. I'll keep it in mind. Just let me get through and end this stage of my life in May, God willing. So anyways, let's continue on. This post I thought was really interesting and thought was noteworthy of sharing with you guys. This has to do with the sort of whitewashing of Abraham Lincoln's actual religious views. So he's often presented. I just went to the Indiana State Museum with my wife for Valentine's Day. She wanted to do a bunch of museums and activities like that. And there was a whole section on Abraham Lincoln because he was born in Indiana and then moved to Illinois with his family. And so there's a cabin in southern Indiana where he was born. And there's a whole section devoted towards Abraham Lincoln and stuff like that. And they present him as this virtuous Christian man who wanted to end slavery and end the injustices within America. And this post was pretty interesting. It says that Lincoln wasn't just an atheist. He was aggressively anti-Christian. Who else is rabidly anti-Christian? Communists. Keep that in mind. William Herndon, the most faithful friend of Lincoln, was so outraged at the falsehoods excuse me, put forth about Lincoln's piety and what he called the pretended biographies of his life that in 1870 he wrote a letter to Ward Lamon, another close friend of Lincoln, from which the following is taken. So this little section is from a private letter of apparently one of Lincoln's closest friends to another close friend. In New Salem, Mr. Lincoln lived with a class of men, moved with them, and had is being with them. They were scoffers of religion, made loud protests against the followers of Christianity. They declared that Jesus was an illegitimate child. Sounds like very Talmudic. In 1835, Lincoln wrote a book on infidelity and intended to have it published. The book was an attack on the idea that Jesus was Christ. In 1854, he made me erase the name of God from a speech I was about to make. He held many of the Christian ideas in abhorrence, and he held that God could not forgive sinners. The idea that Lincoln carried a Bible in his bosom or in his boots to draw on his opponent is ridiculous. So, little interesting perspective on Abraham Lincoln that we don't often get. Just wanted to throw that in there, just in case nobody heard it. Worthy of a little notice in our little news stream today. Next item at hand is Israel's Mossad, and this is from today, is caught spying on the Italian Prime Minister Meloni and senior official to gather blackmail for extortion. Now, who would have thought that would be possible? He says Israel is doing this to every politician. Well, very interesting that Mossad just got caught spying on the Italian PM. I thought that was a little noteworthy. Here's another video that was circulating. This was from last week, talking about how Israel was behind the TikTok ban, and that Democrat U.S. Senator Mark Warner admitted that Israel played a role in pushing the TikTok ban through Congress. Check this out.
The legislation passed so quickly. If this is correct, and there's not a lot of people that understand, somebody understood something.
I want to see if you're going to tell the real story.
Okay, the real. Well, first of all, let the record
We're talking about
reflect.
TikTok legislation.
I left.
No AI legislation.
Senator, I left to produce more human beings, and they cost money. They're not making me money. And if everyone had followed Frank and my Irish Catholic lead and repopulated the earth, we would have already won this Cold War competition. How did it pass so quickly? I know we're running out of time. One, we stole the senator's work, and he did a lot of the, sincerely, a lot of yeoman's work in drafting an initial bill. We were able to sort of learn from that experience. We refined the approach. We worked with him. We worked with the executive branch. So we had a bipartisan consensus. We had the executive branch, but the bill was still dead until October 7th. And people started to see a bunch of anti-Semitic content on the platform, and our bill had legs again. And then there was a huge miscalculation by TikTok. When it became apparent that we were going to pass it out of committee, they forced sort of a pop-up on the app that allowed people to call their members of Congress, and kids were calling into their members of Congress during school hours threatening to commit suicide if TikTok went away. And for those of us who are concerned about the use of this platform for propaganda purposes or brainwashing, it sort of proved the point in the moment, and suddenly the bill passed. So it was the threat of espionage, the threat of propaganda, the good work of Senator Warner, and a few other players that all conspired.
And he got it out of a committee that is the most diverse in the House, from left to right, 50-0 after a classified. Yeah, that was he did people would not have bet on, but he and his Democratic colleagues did some great.
But to your point about democracy, I mean, that was a 3-year endeavor and it failed, 100 times. And we just had to keep working it.
So let me do this. We are out of time.
So TikTok would have never been able to be banned, or at least the push behind the politician, until October 7th by help of the Israeli lobby here in the United States. Very, very interesting stuff. Curious Enthusiast throws in $5. Thank you so much. Says Greek Aussie here. I have a lot of respect for your channel, and it's great to see a Greek American with a solid YouTube channel. Hope it keeps growing. Well, thank you very much, Curious Enthusiast. However, I am not Greek. I have to confess. I'm actually of English descent. Got some German and Irish in there. So I am not Greek. I am a convert to Orthodoxy, but I do appreciate the support, brother. Thank you very much. And I love to hear that Orthodoxy it sounds like it's really growing in Australia. So God bless you. Thank you for the support. And hopefully it doesn't diminish your enthusiasm for the channel, knowing that, no, actually, I am not Greek, but I do thank you. Travis throws in $10, says, really like these weekly news/drama streams. It's nice getting an Orthodox perspective on current events. Come down to Texas and replace Dan Crenshaw. Yeah, I should. That'd be great, actually. So thank you so much, Travis. God bless you, brother. And Matthew Johnson, man, thank you so much, Matthew. Throws another $10, says, remember that history's great men always have their warts. Look at the fruit of their greatness. Pointing out warts is easy. I myself am not a fan of Candace Owens in the slightest. Well, true. Absolutely true. Yeah, we all come short to the glory of Christ. That's a fact. But thank you, Matthew, for your support today. Really appreciate that, my man. And Dano throws in 5, no comment. Thank you so much, Dano. I think that, yeah, we just made the dono chat goal. Thank you guys so much for being so generous and supporting the stream. I do appreciate it. Let's see what we got next. I think I had a few Israeli things here in a row. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, this is an interesting little video. Let's check this out. I'll refrain from commenting.
And as you do, is the thought that you're chosen. Because for this, you can get killed. Yes, we are chosen. And yes, the land of Israel belongs to us. There's no further debate. I'm not going to justify it. I'm not going to defend it. If you don't know that it's our land, go back to school. Yes. And that is so powerful.
They say you're rude or you're cocky or whatever, but there's never a debate of, well, you're incorrect because such and such. They're just like, I hate that you're willing to blatantly say it.
But there's also the reaction of, oh, finally.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're kind of begging for us to just say it. You know, we're always hiding it because we know that it creates this level of is that a word, uncomfortability?
Also known as discomfort.
Interesting. So you need to go back to school if you believe that the Palestinian people were there before the Jewish migration. This was something interesting that happened last week as well. This is February 17th that I believe he's a rabbi, was in front of Congress to talk about what he considered harmful memes being spread online, depicting Jews in nefarious ways. So check this out.
I just want to come back again to this visual because it's in real time. This was posted by a professor at Rutgers University on his Facebook page. We have a young girl, 19 years old, who went to Rutgers.
So if you guys can't see, it says Federal Reserve, and it shows a character of a Jewish gentleman rubbing his hands. It says the internet spying, Hollywood TV, law courts, cancer industry, pornography, wars for Israel, sex trafficking, and fake opposition. And kind of shows the same person in each presentation. And this gentleman is upset because a professor at Rutgers shared this on their personal X platform.
Because she wants to get her degree in food science. This is the guy she's going to have to go and sign up for, because right now there is absolutely no price to pay. There's no red line, nothing about someone in a position of responsibility who openly expresses such vile hate, and there's nothing to protect that freshman from pursuing her course.
Right. And Mr. Greenblatt, am I so off base here? Have we been going down the wrong, worrying about the 118 cases so far of anti-Semitism so far this year?
Congressman, you're dead on. I mean, again,
here's Mr. Greenblatt, head of the ADL. I'm sure you're already aware.
I know some people teach courses over the course of 15 weeks. The ADL's been tracking this for over 100 years, and data doesn't lie. And what you pointed out about the definition is exactly correct. This doesn't inhibit the ability of an individual, student, faculty, or otherwise, to criticize an Israeli policy, but it does acknowledge, as that definition does, that definition, by the way, that was done in consultation with leading experts from academia and communal organizations, and it's used by our embassies around the world to track anti-Semitic incidents.
So if you don't know, anything that the ADL deems as anti-Semitic is being tracked online in real time, most likely by the help of Israel. So interesting little tidbit there in case you weren't aware. Curious Enthusiast throws in 5 more. Thank you so much, brother. He says, no enthusiasm diminished at all. A man who calls out the jabs and modern globalist ideology deserves support. Well, thank you so much, Curious Enthusiast. God bless you, brother. And Melly throws in 2, says, hand rubbing intensifies. Yeah. Now, I thought this was interesting. This was from, let's see, 3 days ago. This is actress Natasha Lyonne talking about what she thinks about what keeps her up at night. When I think of the kids, like the 12-year-old girl that can't get an abortion, that's what really rips me apart. Now, it makes you think, why are 12-year-olds getting pregnant? That would be pedophilic. So why would they need abortion? I'll let her speak for herself.
Oh, wow, what a guy. Yes, well, when the orange drips, you know, it's very weird to have like a showbiz guy in charge is surreal. I mean, because, well, I'm actually pretty horrified by how strategic and effective this whole thing has been. And I think there's a real disconnect in all of the noise around like the individuals that are going to be really taking the hits on a individual, like a human basis in the trans community, gay community, Black community, you know, women, like I hate violence so much. And I just think it's that's the part.
These people are literally mentally retarded. Like literally. What is she talking about? What violence has occurred on any minority group since Trump's taken the presidency? Like, what is she talking about?
Of it, like this country's always had, you know, insanity, but to really have like a death toll and be willing to do that is a pill too great for me to swallow.
So she hates violence. I guarantee you, if somebody went and looked up her stuff, she supported the war in Ukraine. Over 1 million Ukrainians dead, mostly young men, an entire generation wiped out. And she, what is she talking about?
Like beyond the sort of dialectic around oligarchs and whatever else, it's like when I think of the kids or like the 12-year-old girl that can't get an abortion or something, or, you know, it's that's what really like rips me apart that but you know, this is America, to quote Childish Gambino, Donald Glover. So
what a retarded woman. So just wanted to use that as a highlight for the the intellectual activity that takes place in Hollywood right now. So anyways, this was interesting. So this woman who's basically another e-girl, you know, thirst trap, she got caught and called out by Rachel Wilson and Andrew because she was posting cooking videos, which were accentuating her breast and doing it in leggings, all this different stuff, right? So not here to support Isabella Maria DeLuca, but it was interesting. So Milo, for some reason, was going after her. She posted some photo quoting Nick Fuentes when Trump won, "My body, his choice," with heart hands, and her in like a bodycon type dress. And Milo responds, "How does a girl this fat have this much self-confidence?" Which you look at it, and this is probably a whore e-girl. I don't know her exactly, but she's certainly thirst trapping and trying to get young men to simp for her. That's a fact. And she calls, so I'm quoting Isabella, YouTube, quoting Isabella. This is not me. As you can see, this post has already been limited by X. She calls, she says that you're literally a fag, talking to Milo. And the response to Milo's post was a bunch of men talking about like, dude, are you still gay? Because that's not what we would consider a fat chick. So thought it was interesting. Again, just questioning whether Milo claims, and God willing it's true, that he converted to Catholicism in a sincere way and has given up his gay lifestyle, divorced his Black British husband, and all that stuff. So hopefully that's the truth. He's kind of a weird, spurgy guy. Don't really trust much of anything that he does or says. Claims to still be working on the Kanye West campaign for presidency, which again, Kanye, as of recent, he just looks mentally unhinged. He may say a few things that I agree with, but he looks mentally unhinged. So anyways, brought this up because it's interesting. Is Milo straight? Not sure. So the next thing I wanted to do is bring up the conversation about Fort Knox and the gold. So this is Trump recently at CPAC saying that he and Elon Musk are going to go to Fort Knox to see if the gold is still there. So we are told that 5 tons of gold is supposed to be there. And I was listening to, there's a recent conversation with Tucker of a gentleman who's like really in the gold industry. And he was claiming that at the height of America in the early 20th century, we had like 18 tons of gold, which was like the leader in the world for the amount of gold. And then we began to sell gold. And once the Federal Reserve was established, we started to like support the American empire through the issuing of debt. And as of recent, and he talks about it in the interview with Tucker Carlson, I forget the guy's name. You can pull it up here just for factual transparency. I'll pull it up. But anyways, what he was talking about is that when those who are monitoring gold exchange right now in the world, much gold, here it is right here, Luke Groman. So don't know anything about him. I watched the video, thought it was interesting, had a lot of interesting things to say about gold and the value of gold. But Luke Groman talks about how if you're tracking gold right now, the biggest place that it's flowing into is the United States, specifically coming out of Britain and parts of Western Europe. And then gold is flowing into Russia and China. And the speculation is that Trump, knowing the probability or the definite conclusion of the debt system that the U.S. government has built itself upon through the Federal Reserve, is ultimately bankrupting and corrupting America because it's sending all jobs offshore, and that this has become a national security threat. That America, we literally, and what this is as shown with the Ukraine-Russia conflict, is we literally cannot make weaponry at the pace that we did during, the previous world wars in the early 20th century and all this different stuff, because we've offshored all of our production. And so we're literally building military items by way of Chinese technology. And so the Defense Department has said that we have to restructure, and that bringing manufacturing back to the United States isn't just for domestic prosperity and the raising of wages and, economic spending inside the United States. This is a matter of national security. And so I thought it was really interesting that Trump is really putting an emphasis on gold, and he just issued a new, what's called the U.S. Gold Card, where you can essentially bypass the immigration process that I had to go through with my wife and are still going through to get a temporary green card, that you can essentially purchase an American citizenship by $5 million. And that he claims that this is a way to bring wealthy people into the United States so that they can invest their money in our country. And to some degree, he's done a really good job of getting businesses to invest. So if you saw like Tim Cook of Apple is moving their manufacturing from Mexico to the United States and investing $5 billion. Now, what do you think of Apple and Tim Cook? Leave that aside. But the fact that more jobs are going to be coming to the United States and people are going to be employed, that I think is a good thing no matter what. So the idea here is that Trump is actually aware of all this stuff and aware of the hollowing out of America through this issuing of debt through the fiat dollar, and that he is trying to get as much gold as possible back in the United States so that they can then finance part of their debt, our massive debt, through the amount of gold that we have, which is currently not on the books. So interesting stuff. So this is his recent comment about him going to Fort Knox, which Elon Musk has said they may live stream to go to go to Fort Knox to see if the gold is actually there, because there's rumors that the U.S. has like liquidated much of its gold reserves, and that the amount of gold we have on paper isn't actually real, and that it's all gone. And so this is Trump saying that they're going to go see.
We are also going to Fort Knox. I'm going to go with Elon. And would anybody like to join us? Because we want to see if the gold is still there. We want to see. Wouldn't that be terrible? We open up.
So now I don't know what would happen if, let's say, Trump and Elon go there and like half or less than half of the gold is actually still present. I don't know who gets in trouble or what's going on there, but it'd certainly be eye-opening for the United States. But anyways, the only thing that I thought was interesting and worth noting, not him just going to Fort Knox, but what I think is interesting is the emphasis that the Trump administration is putting on acquiring gold right now, that apparently the United States at this moment is the biggest purchaser of gold in the world, and that from what I heard, the biggest seller that we're getting it from is Great Britain. So we are essentially buying lots of ounces, if not tons of gold from Britain right now. So very, very interesting stuff going on there. Next thing I got, let's see here. This was a little interesting video. This is a woman talking about Garth Brooks being the Diddy of country music. I'll play that in just a second real quick. Matthew Johnson threw in another 10. Thank you so much, Matthew. He says, as God wills it, Russian relations will not only normalize in the U.S., yes, God willing, but they will expand greatly for both countries. ROCOR parishes and monasteries get ready for lots of Russian tourists. Yeah, well, that was part of the negotiation. So I saw that Putin has already said that he's, what was it? It wasn't natural gas, but it was some type of, maybe it was aluminum or some type of metal that Russia was willing to send tons of it to the United States to stabilize the market, that they wanted to increase tourism from both Americans going to Russia and Russians coming to the United States, and that Putin said he was even willing to sell some of the minerals of the eastern Ukrainian provinces and part of Russia to the United States if they can negotiate a deal. So it sounds like, and especially the transition of Trump's rhetoric regarding Zelensky, and I got his Truth Social post to show you guys here in a second. I mean, Trump has totally flipped and he is not very nice to Zelensky as of late, and is even said that NATO is responsible for the Ukrainian war, which he hadn't said as of recent. That was one of the big criticisms, is that he was accurate on wanting to end the Ukrainian war, but he was wrong to say how many Russians died. And he was wrong to say how well Ukraine was defending themselves, which they weren't. And he never addressed the point that this war would have never started if NATO wasn't expanding. And so today he made a comment explicitly stating that Ukraine will never be part of NATO. And that was the cause of the war in the first place, which that's news from the U.S. presidency. Nobody said that in a while. Justin Henley throws in $2. Thank you so much, Justin. He says she talks like she's biting a popsicle stick. Yeah, that woman was nuts. And it says DPH calling people literally retarded clipped. Oh God, don't get me in trouble now. Don't get the channel flag. But you know, the word retard needs to come back. There's no reason. You know, people aren't really getting offended by it. So I don't buy the hype. Anyways, this was interesting. This is a woman in Tennessee claiming that Garth Brooks is the Diddy of country music and Dolly Parton is the Sale missing children. Anyway, I think that was worded wrong. I'll let her explain it herself.
Miss Dolly Parton. Now, I'm in Tennessee. I know exactly where her place is. My best friend in here's brother's got 2 cabins up there in Gatlinburg, just about nothing. One of them's like 7 miles from Dollywood. Have you seen the post on here where Dolly Parton says she can't live in the United States with Trump? Now, I know that if you've been on TikTok for a minute, you know that they're calling Garth Brooks the Diddy in music, country music. You don't have that many fucking deaths around nobody. He's a no good piece of shit. Well, let me tell you something about Miss Dollywood and Dolly Parton. For years now, the people here in Tennessee has heard that mountain top was stolen from a family. And I believe it. I damn sure believe it. That woman's got a lot of secrets. Y'all want to know why you'll never see her sleeveless? The bitch has got tattoos on her. She's got a lot of secrets. Did y'all know that? Hell, my son's got 3 tattoos. parlors. I got a tattoo on my hip or my thigh. It's of my kids back to back, but I don't show it. But Dolly Parton said she couldn't live in the United States. So she found her a nice little place in Mexico. Did y'all know that? See, let me tell you the rumors here about Dollywood. That's where people took kids up there for people to look at to buy. Y'all remember the Summer Wells story? They took them kids there a lot. What happened to Summer? This is known in Tennessee. I would not go to that fucking place for nothing. See, I'm so thankful that God did not. He grounded me in so many ways. You can't buy me with money. You can't buy me with sparkly shiny. And I have no desire to go give somebody like Dolly Parton or anybody else or Disney a bunch of damn money to ride rides and to stand in line and just be miserable. To fatten some fucker's pocket.
So pardon the language for anybody listening to that, but Melly has the ultimate comment. She says, "Is that James Carville?" It may have been. It may have been Melly. I'm not positive, but I thought it was interesting. It got like 1.4 million views on X, and that is this woman claiming that Dolly Parton is part of one of these elite pedo rings, and that's part of the reason why she apparently moved to Mexico in case the Trump DOJ or administration looks into some of this stuff, especially the rumors circulating Garth Brooks. So who knows? Thought it was interesting and worth sharing with you guys. Keep it on your radar in case it ever comes back up. So, but that's hilarious, Melly. Oh gosh, thanks. Now, this is interesting. This is a clip, and shout out to Jay Dyer. I watched this whole video. This is this gentleman. I forget what his name was. It's going to be right here. I'll just go to Tucker's channel. He is a Jewish lawyer who is defending the Orthodox Church. There it is, Bob Amsterdam. And so he talked about defending so he's the U.S. legal representative of the Orthodox Church in Ukraine, the real one under the Moscow Patriarchate. And he's talking about all the persecution and everything like that. Well, this clip that I want to show you is him talking about how the ecumenical patriarch is actually supportive of all this stuff and was aware of it and is intentionally causing a schism through the Orthodox Church. Check this out.
Do you know who at the State Department worked on this op to create a fake church?
Yes. It dates back to 2014. We believe it began with Victoria Nuland, who, I mean, this was a big operation because she worked with the ambassador of the United States to Ukraine, amazingly becomes the ambassador of the United States to Greece. And it is, in fact, the patriarch of the Constantinople Church that becomes the one who engineers basically the destruction of our church by taking canonical control away from Moscow and taking it to himself, violating a treaty from the 17th century. So we have the United States, and by the way, this was engineered by Secretary of State Pompeo. So this isn't just a Democrat thing. Secretary of State Pompeo was
the difference between
involved.
Victoria Nuland and Mike Pompeo is negligible. There's no difference at all that I'm aware of. He may be slightly smarter. He's smarter than she is, and therefore more sinister. But they have the same views on everything.
Well, in any event, Pompeo was involved in basically having this what's called in religious terms a tomos granted so that Ukraine could establish an autocephalous church. This is in 2019. So the church that is allegedly now a clean church away from Russia is 5 years old.
So the fact that the ecumenical patriarch, which we've talked about, Jay's talked about, I think we even talked about it together on one of our streams, speculating, it's been a cause for concern amongst the Orthodox world that Patriarch Bartholomew has said things that sort of insinuated a sort of semi-papal supremacy of his seat as the Patriarch of Constantinople, that he's signaled a sort of potential reunion with Rome, and the fact that he's recognized this fake church in Ukraine and it's essentially caused a schism, and has never spoken out about the actual persecution of Orthodox priests, their patriarch, their clergymen, and the parishioners in Ukraine. And as in this interview, Amsterdam highlights that the actual real Ukrainian churches are still filled with people where they're able to exist, because the Ukrainian government and military just comes and seizes their property and then claims that it's now in the ownership of this fake Orthodox jurisdiction, which nobody attends. And he was talking about, you go into one of these alternative Ukrainian churches and nobody's there. And in fact, we've seen videos where they took over the Lavra in Kiev and they have rock band concerts. Zelensky's having like a political speech in there. I mean, totally desecrating these places of worship. And so I thought that's especially newsworthy, because now we have a confirmation regarding the legal representative of the true Ukrainian Orthodox Church, saying that this is all part of a State Department plan that the Patriarch of Constantinople, Bartholomew, has been aware of and has participated in, and even granted this schism in 2019 before the war even started in 2022. So very concerning things regarding that, but really just validating many of the stuff that we've already talked about. So it is what it is, but I thought that was certainly newsworthy for you guys to hear. Next topic. So this is a little information on how Elon's PayPal mafia is connected directly to the Israeli government and Mossad. Check this out.
South Africa, the apartheid state was formed in 1948, the same time that the state of Israel was formed.
Interesting.
1948. Israel provided the South African apartheid regime with weapons, guns, training, assistance from Mossad, Shin Bet.
Based.
And then, of course, isn't David Sachs also from South Africa? Aren't a lot of these PayPal guys from South Africa?
I didn't know that.
When you start looking into the PayPal mafia and who the people that Elon associates with and who the major oligarchs in this country are associated with Peter Thiel and Palantir, a lot of them have roots back in South Africa.
Peter Thiel is best friends with Alex Karp. I know that much. He
Well,
was
yeah.
roommates with him in college. Alex Karp is the CEO of Palantir. He's this Jewish guy.
The one that bragged about crushing the right in Europe.
Yeah.
Look, we built PG, which single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe.
He said, we created software that single-handedly stopped the far-right rise in Europe. There's this New York Times interview where he said that everything that he does at Palantir is based on his identity as a Jewish man. And he said that the first group that's going to come after him as a Jew is not the left, it's the right.
David Sachs, South African American entrepreneur. It's weird.
The Palantir stuff is certainly concerning. They went public during COVID. First of all, big red flag. Like, they were involved in the creation of the vaccines, their software, their Gotham software.
That's right.
They created this other thing called Tiberius, also interesting name. They used this software to collect the health data of basically every single American citizen.
Right, I remember this.
Yeah, and these are the people that are loosely tied to, like Elon Musk.
Here's Grok's answer
In JD Vance, more specifically.
for this. Elon Musk was born in South Africa. David Sachs was born in Cape Town. Peter Thiel, although born in Germany, spent part of his childhood in South Africa. Roelof Botha, who's the CFO of PayPal, is the grandson of Pik Botha, the last foreign minister of apartheid South Africa. There was like a mafia from South Africa that at the end of apartheid and came to America and took our shit over.
Foreign and domestic corporate vultures.
So if you weren't aware, very interesting little tidbits there that possibly may draw some connections you may not be aware of. Matthew throws another 10. My gosh, brother, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. He says, as a Greek Orthodox, it's so sad to see the EP bend the knee to the neocons. We pray his successor will have significantly different views. Absolutely. And that's why some of the rumor was that Elpidophoros, the Archbishop of Goa here in America, is kind of set to replace Bartholomew. But the rumor that I heard from people in Greece is that the vast majority of the Greek clergy wouldn't allow that to happen. In fact, Elpidophoros, there was one bishop that actually banned him from attending any of the churches in his area because of his support for very progressive causes. So, God willing, and we saw that Greek legalized, at least the secular government legalized gay marriage, the first Orthodox country to do so. And we saw that many of the Greek clergy spoke out against this as, a terrible thing to happen to their nation. And in fact, a step towards the fulfillment of prophecies that people like St. Paisios has discussed, and we've discussed on this channel before. So hopefully that's not the case. But not the case that these things are going to continue to grow. But God willing, the person who succeeds Bartholomew is not Elpidophoros and is a traditional Orthodox Greek, so that they can sort of rewrite the wrongs that jurisdiction and diocese has been moving towards. So I sympathize with you, Matthew. I think it's been terrible what's happening to the Greek church and the representation here in the U.S. I mean, it's just a fact that the Greek church has the reputation of being the most progressive, the least traditional. And that's not true for every church. I know so many Orthodox that love their Greek parish, love their Greek priest. So there are great Greek parishes. I do not mean to speak out against all Greek Orthodoxy or anything like that whatsoever. That is not my intention. But with Elpidophoros at the head, certainly the reputation within the Orthodox world is that the Greek diocese is the most progressive and the most left-leaning and the most modernist. And obviously, Elpidophoros serving the Eucharist in an Anglican church that's very pro-gay, pro-LGBTQ, all that different stuff. Very, very concerning. So hopefully that doesn't continue, Matthew. I totally agree with you, and it's very disheartening. All right, next thing I got. Let's see what's going to pop up. I don't even know. So the same thing that I already showed you guys about him talking about Fort Knox. May have accidentally doubled that one. This is Trump today talking about how the EU was formed in order to screw the United States. Very, very interesting statement and very concerning for some of the European leaders because, as I said, he's already threatened to pull out of NATO and essentially end military support by the United States to defend Europe from any sort of existential threat, i.e. Russia. So check this out.
But I love the countries of Europe. I love all countries, frankly, all different. But European Union's it was formed in order to screw the United States. I mean, look, let's be honest. The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it. But now I'm president.
What will happen in these countries where the EU retaliate?
They can't. I mean, they can try. But I love the countries of Europe.
And that's what I love. Again, all the flaws of Trump, and we've been very critical and highlighted all of them. One of the things I love, though, is the reporter says, well, what about if the EU wants to retaliate against you? He says they can try, but they can't. They have no leverage, right? Stormer from Britain is supposed to be coming this week. Macron was just here. And from what I've been hearing with the news circles that I listen and follow, is that they basically were coming to feel out Donald Trump's thoughts on the war in Ukraine and things going on in the world, and then trade issues with the EU. And they wanted to continue the war. Stormer has basically said last week, and I think I have a video of it in one of these tabs, that he wants to send thousands of British troops to the front lines of Ukraine to fight Russia. And this was during the time that Trump had already said he spoke with Putin and that they're moving towards peace. Then the prime minister of Britain comes out and says, oh, well, we're going to send troops to the front lines. What? Why? Why would you want? And so the whole thing, though, is that these EU countries, they have no leverage with the United States. If we bring back our domestic production and manufacturing, if we do have a sort of gold-backed currency, even though we're still going to have the Federal Reserve, I don't see that ending anytime soon. Or at least if we leverage and acquire gold and leverage that against the national debt, we're going to be in a pretty decent place concerning the Western hemisphere and the Western world. I mean, every other Western nation seems to be literally in self-destructive mode. So I love that Trump basically says, well, what they can do, Europe can't do anything. I mean, they can't even agree on immigration. They can't agree on a lot of stuff. So, there is going to be no retaliation. Next thing I got. This was a big deal. So did you guys see the plane crash? This is the Delta plane crash that happened in Toronto. So this plane was coming in a little bit hot, and you're going to see it comes in way too fast and hard and ends up tipping over here. And this had multiple passengers on board. I think 18 some people were injured, and there's videos of them having to like climb out of the side of the plane. Well, people immediately speculated because of some of the stuff that's happened in the US and the conversations about DEI, that this must be a DEI hire. And Delta came out and said that they didn't know who the pilot was, that, the CEO said it wasn't Trump's fault because this happened to do in Toronto. This was Canada, even though Delta Airlines was operating it. And that they didn't know who the actual pilot was. Well, as the next one will show, what came out is exactly what you would think. The Delta crash was the result, and this is one of the videos of people. So this was the result of a female pilot who had very little experience. Sounds familiar to the helicopter crash that we covered last time. And didn't do a very good job. Ended up just coming in way too hot, had very little experience. And apparently she was only certified to fly cargo. But because of shortages on pilots, she actually was carrying passengers that day. And of course they wrecked. So, they tried to say it wasn't DEI, but it turns out it seems like it certainly affected it in one way or another by having a female pilot with very little experience who was apparently licensed to fly cargo, fly passengers, and end up wrecking and injuring multiple people. So there you go. There's that. Matthew Johnson became a COTEL Crew member. Thank you so much, Matthew. God bless you. Guys, don't forget, if you're feeling generous, give some COTEL Crew memberships. We got members-only content coming here on YouTube and the website. So if you want to be able to watch some of the videos, like my video I just recorded today on Trump and Cyrus the Great, make sure you become a COTEL Crew member. So thank you so much, Matthew, for all your support today. Really appreciate it. Now, this is some inspiring, hopeful news. So an evangelical church in Halifax, England, is preparing to join the Orthodox Church, and this is in the Antiochian Archdiocese. So an evangelical congregation in Halifax, West Yorkshire, England, is in the process of converting the entire parish to Orthodox Christianity via the Antiochian Orthodox Christian Archdiocese. So wonderful, wonderful news, very inspiring stuff. Demonstrating this general trend within the entire Western world. Last news stream we showed that in Germany that they're seeing a massive influx into the Orthodox Church. And then here in England, we see an example of an entire evangelical parish becoming Orthodox Christian. So glory to God for that. That is just wonderful news. And just really loving all the news we're hearing about the spread and growth of Orthodoxy worldwide. This was big news yesterday. This was going around, and this was shared by AF Post today. This is the popular podcaster George Janko, referring to the Eucharist as dirt and idolatry if you believe that Christ's presence actually exists in the Eucharistic sacrament. Now, he's Protestant. I believe he has some what I think he did a video with PBD, so Patrick Bet David, where he recognized that he was Assyrian or of Assyrian descent. And so he doesn't even belong to the Assyrian Oriental Church. He's some type of Protestant, but he's been going on apparently Christ and his promotion of Christianity, and God bless him for talking about Christ. Ended like his friendship with one of the Paul brothers, Logan Paul, and the podcast that they did, all this different stuff. I don't really follow the Paul brothers very much, but this was a video of him talking and disparaging the Eucharist in a recent conversation.
Things that are dirt and put it to the holiness of God. I can never do that. I don't look at things that are dirt and put it to the holiness of God. I can never do that. When they take the Eucharist or when they take this and they truly believe that it is actually his body and his blood, to me, it's a big no-no. So they believe that it is actually his body.
I think it's called transubstantiation.
Yes.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, isn't that blasphemy? Isn't that like
It's literally in Scripture. Literally in Scripture, when Christ talks about, this is my body, this is my blood, and the entire Last Supper, this is the point of it. This is the Eucharistic communion of man with God through the Eucharist, through the sacrament. This guy doesn't know anything about what he's talking about, and he's then sitting there with all these other Protestants that think, nod their head like, Pavlovian dogs, like, oh yeah, absolutely. So how are you? And this is the problem with Protestantism, is that we've talked about it being an ideology, but because it's so rationally focused, it has zero mysticism. And so you can't rationally come to a conclusion on how God's presence is within the Eucharistic service. But it's through a mystery, because we have mysticism, because God isn't in the confines of rationality. But for these Protestants, and to that degree, that would be even our contention with transubstantiation, that it's a too much of a rationalistic definitional approach to this sort of transformation of it, and that ours, we appeal to mysticism. That's why Lasky's book, The Mystical Church, The Mystical Theology of the Eastern Church, which I did a whole discussion on with Jay covering this book. Let me set it here. It has to do with the fact that we don't confine theology and God's movement in the world by rational means. This is mystical. It's super rational. It's beyond rationalism.
Idolatry at a whole different level. When you're worshiping something, we're just taking dirt and worshiping it as if it's our presence of God. And I can't wrap my head around that. I can't wrap my head that, like, if the piece of bread falls to the ground, legitimately hell breaks loose in that church, and they bow and pick it up with their mouth, and they treat it like it is actually my God that's in that bread. I can't get behind that. I think little movements like this could set a trajectory to move a man away from God. That's why I fight for it so hard. It's because I truly have brothers and sisters that sat with me in the pew, but they no longer see God as God anymore, because they weren't nourished the way they should have been nourished. They were taught to fear the wrong things and to practice the wrong things. So when they were biblically sound, they were lost. I'd rather now talk about the hard things that nobody wants to talk about before we all die and we're in front of the kings. And then I'm going to be sitting in God's presence, and God goes, I put it in your heart to talk about it, and you ran away from it. I'd rather die today. I'd rather die today.
So, again, that's coming from somebody who knows nothing about what they're talking about. And this is the reason why you don't get theological advice from Protestants, because they are so deeply embedded in ancient heresies that they can't even see straight. So anyways, I thought that was worthy news. It was kind of circulating around X. Now, this one, also not so hopeful. This is a English child saying they are forcing us to learn about Islam and Muhammad in school. I don't want to know this. I want to learn about my own culture. And this went viral across the internet. This wasn't the only post. This was just one that I grabbed. So this had 2.8 million views, but I saw other people posting this. And again, it's an indictment to the state of Western Europe right now. I mean, they are being conquered legitimately by Islam.
In schools, they're pressuring us to learn about Islam and learn about the people that are coming over. I don't want to learn about that. I want to learn about my culture, my beliefs, and I'm proud to be English.
Have they taught you about the Bill of Rights?
No.
Did you learn about the Battle of Agincourt?
No. In school, they were teaching us about Islam, about Prophet Muhammad, and all their ideologies. They barely cover Christianity at all.
Did they tell you about how he was a warlord who brutally murdered people?
They wouldn't say any of that. And when I tried to stand up and say that some of them things, I would get in trouble for it. Suspended from school because apparently I was being racist. I wasn't. I was just trying to,
You're questioning an ideology.
Yes, I was questioning the ideology, and in my opinion, it's not the right ideology. trying to take away my free speech in school. They're trying to silence me, to suspend me from school for, you know.
So you're saying that he voiced his displeasure with having to learn about Islam and Muhammad as opposed to Christianity in public school, and that he was suspended for voicing that opinion. So just another example of the fall of Europe right now. And here is one on the United States. This is a bit of a hopeful news, is that the United States Department of Agriculture is now exploring a federal solution to stop China from purchasing U.S. farmland. And I also read in another post, I think there was an article, it wasn't a post on X, but how the Trump administration is coming up with ways that, and basically putting it on as opposed to the federal government using the states to reclaim any land that's been purchased by China or Chinese nationalists. So now, not Chinese people that have come to America, not that, but like major swaths of land. And the interesting thing, and I think Alex Jones has talked about this quite a bit, is that they're purchasing massive swaths of land around U.S. military bases. So, God willing, you know, the U.S. government does something about that, reclaims that land and makes it for sale for actual Americans, and also stop selling meat. So one of the things that I was astonished by, I believe I talked about in a previous stream, is that like over a fourth, if not more, of all the meat packaged out of the United States is sent to China. Now, why would we do that? It just makes total sense, logical sense. How about America, instead of buying meat from foreign places, now I get, you know, exotic dinners and stuff like that. All meat in the United States should be grown in the United States. That just makes total sense. We have all the land to do it. And so, unfortunately, due to our corrupt government, they've made deals and they're selling like a half, if not, a fourth, if not up to a half of it to China. So hopefully something gets done about that. Next thing I got is, here's another example of Europe. So Marie Kaiser, a German national, was charged and fined 6,000 euros for posting a fact about immigrant statistics and crimes. And this is what she posted. So that's a picture of her. She posted this. Germany fined her $6,000. What does it say? It just highlights, come on, zoom out, that in Germany, Afghans and Africans are proportionally 40 times and 70 times more involved in gang rapes than Germans themselves. Germans are less than 1%. Afghans are 41%. 41%. That's incredible. Just sharing that statistic got her a $6,000 fine. I got a freaking bug in here I need to kill. So, all right, let's see what we got next. This is a UK rapper. I thought this was just interesting and noteworthy. I don't listen to this guy. I've never heard a song by him, but apparently he's a very popular rapper. The UK rapper Stormzy removes all Palestinian posts before announcing a McDonald's brand deal. Very interesting. Now, why would McDonald's want a major celebrity in the UK to delete everything that involved Palestine? Very interesting. Let's see what we got next. So this is, I thought I wanted to share this with you guys. This is Donald Trump's Truth Social post on Vladimir Zelensky. Very, very insightful. We have not heard this rhetoric from U.S. politicians. Think of it. A modestly successful comedian who, again, dressed in drag and pretended to be gay. And there's real rumors that Zelensky's a cokehead and that he may be a closeted homosexual. I know he has a wife, but talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war they couldn't be won, that never had to start, but a war that he, without the United States and Trump, will never be able to settle. The United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe, and Europe's money is guaranteed, while the United States is not getting will get nothing back. Why didn't sleepy Joe Biden demand equalization? And that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us. We have a big, beautiful ocean of separation. On top of this, Zelensky admits that half of the money we sent him is missing. He refuses to have elections, is very low in Ukrainian polls. I heard that he's below 10% support. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I heard that. In that the only thing he was good at was playing Biden like a fiddle, a dictator without elections. Can you imagine the U.S. president calling Zelensky a dictator? I love it. A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something all admit only Trump and the Trump administration can do. Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably wants to keep the gravy train going. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered and millions have unnecessarily died, and so it continues. So I thought that was a fantastic post by Donald Trump, repackaging and reframing the conflict in Ukraine in a more accurate lens. And so here is a video from today of Trump, or 2 days ago, yesterday, of Trump talking about the deal with Zelensky. So check this out.
True that President Zelensky is coming on Friday to meet with you, and is the mineral deal sorted out?
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to, and he would like to sign it together with me. And I understand that's a big deal, very big deal. And I think the American people, even if you look at polling, they're very happy because, Biden was throwing money around like it's cotton candy. And it's a very big deal. Look, it could be $1 trillion deal. It could be whatever, but it's rare earths and other things. And look, we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine and Russia fighting a war that should have never, ever happened. That's a war that would have never happened if I were president. And it didn't happen for 4 years. People say, how do we know that it didn't happen for 4 years? Would have never happened. And nevertheless, this guy went into this situation and he spent money like nobody's ever seen, $350 billion. The other thing that we don't like is that Europe has spent $100 billion. We've spent $350 billion. Europe gets their money back because they spent it in the form of a loan. And we just gave them, whether it's 300 or 350 billion, nobody really knows. They can't even tell me the answer to that, but it means probably more than that. So what we're doing is now we're saying, look, we want to be secured. We want to get that money back. We're helping a country through a very, very big problem, a problem like very few people have had. Shouldn't have had this problem because it shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. So we have to straighten it out. But the American taxpayer now is going to get their money back plus.
So it's apparently, from what I saw today, is Zelensky has officially agreed to the mineral deal for the U.S. to extract, essentially get their money back from the war in Ukraine from Ukraine, and that he is expected to come to the United States, whether at the end of this week or next week, to officially sign the deal. So that's pretty big news, and certainly good for the United States. So I thought that was noteworthy. Meanwhile, this is the Prime Minister of Canada trying to balk. Look how pathetic this is. Oh my gosh. Keir Starmer is such a pathetic loser. Look at this guy.
Yeah, this is good. And again, that's it. And again, then breathe. Relax. Up, and just try and whack it. Yeah, this is good. And again, that's it. And again, then breathe. Relax.
Oh my gosh. And this is the guy talking tough that's going to send British soldiers to the front lines in Ukraine. Give me a break. Give me a break. This guy's an absolute weasel. And there's rumors that he's also a closeted homosexual. Don't know if it's true, but those are certainly the rumors. Next thing I got, we only got 2 more items left. So smash that like, guys. Really appreciate you all being here. David Atlas gifted 5 COTEL Crew memberships. Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate that. And guys, and don't forget, we got members content coming to the YouTube channel. This video I thought was just funny. Somebody edited Zelensky to look super short walking next to Trump. I thought it was hilarious. I am no fan of Zelensky, that's for sure. You probably picked up on that. And so next to the last item, this was pretty interesting. Are you guys familiar with some of these men that have created like engines through the use of hydrogen by water? So check this little video out. This is the next one. And then the last one, we end on a positive note, I promise.
They use water to light your car. I don't care if you use rainwater, well water, city water, ocean water.
So interesting little piece of information. Insinuates that people that have found cures to cancer, free energy, water-powered vehicles, all have died under mysterious circumstances. Could it be that the government or the corporations, the powers that be, don't want things to happen? Certainly this has come out recently regarding Boeing. Remember the whistleblower that was mysteriously died right before going to trial? Was that last year? And was talking about how they've relaxed some of their policies on safety and the quality of their equipment to save money and basically allow the tax holder or the shareholders to make more money off Boeing and the things that they create. So seems very likely if you ask me. Now, this is the last thing I wanted to show you guys. And I just thought this was pretty cool. It has nothing to do with the news whatsoever. But this was highlighting that it's recently been found out killer whales actually protect the offspring of other whales from sharks. And so you'll see here, it kind of looks like the killer whale's going after the baby. It's not. Apparently they circle because, you know, orcas are essentially the ultimate killer of the ocean, right? It is the apex predator of apex predators in the ocean is orcas, and they have incredibly high intelligence. And this video shows that they actually will follow when whales swim in their vicinity, they will protect the offspring from shark attacks.
Killer whales are literally saving humpback whales from shark attacks. Great white sharks in Cape Town are located on the humpback whale's migration paths and hunt newborn calves. But orcas are changing this dynamic. A couple years ago, 2 shark-eating orcas named Port and Starboard moved into the area. They have killed so many sharks. Only in one instance, they killed 5 great white sharks to eat their livers. This has decimated the shark population. Now, there are rare sightings of sharks that were abundant in the region. So you may think that the region is safer for humpback whale calves, but I am not so sure.
So again, a little bit of a positive note to know that the whales of the ocean are teaming up, and that orcas recently discovered off the coast of South Africa is that they are actually protecting humpback whale offsprings. And Tapio says they're Orthodox. I love that. Dave says Russian Orthodox. That's hilarious. Yeah, orcas are so badass. And you know, one of the things that blew me away, my wife and I, we like to watch documentaries. We watched one on orcas, And it was talking about how there is no reported incidents of a wild orca killing a human. Imagine that. Imagine that. Now, there are instances in whales that are captive, you know, that are swimming in tanks that end up killing like their trainer. That's happened multiple times. And people think it's because the whales have gone mad or crazy due to the being confined. Because I mean, the miles that they swim when they're in the wild is just astounding. So it blew me away because I remember we were watching, what caused us to watch the documentary on orcas was a seal. I think it was in the Pacific Northwest, like jumped on a person's boat because the whale or the orcas were chasing it. And the person allowed the seal to eventually stay. And then as they got closer to land, the seal like jumped off the boat and swam away. And one of the posts, they said, isn't it amazing that orcas have never killed a human in the wild? And I thought, really? And then I looked it up, and you guys can look it up right now. It's true. Like there's speculative cases that maybe it's happened, but there's multiple instances of people like surfing or what is it, paddleboarding, where orcas will come up and they do not attempt to hurt the person whatsoever. They'll be curious. Some have even knocked the paddleboarder off, but they don't try to eat it or attack them whatsoever. So it's amazing how these orcas can like know the difference between species and for some reason have no intention of killing humans. I don't know. Dolphins are super rapist. I have heard that. I've seen videos of people going to Waterworld, and no, it's not Waterworld. What is it? What's the place in Florida where all the, it's not Waterworld. What is it? What's the place where they have all the dolphins, like do the tricks? SeaWorld. Jeez. Man, you guys couldn't even, there it is. Yeah. RMH. Yeah. SeaWorld. Yeah. I've seen multiple videos of people going there or in Florida where you can like pet dolphins and stuff and women that are on their period, like get attacked, stuff like that. So anyways, so guys, that's going to conclude the stream for today. I just want to thank everybody for all the generous support. I hope it was informative and insightful and fun. Let me just double check, make sure I didn't miss anybody's super chat. Looks like I got everything over here on YouTube. And it looks like we're caught up. So guys, thank you all so much. I will be back tomorrow with Rachel Wilson doing a stream together for the first time in a while. We'll be talking about historical instances of sipping as cautionary tales. And then I got another stream Friday where we'll be diving into some of the eschatological prophecies of Saint Cosmas, the Aetolian. So I will see you guys then. Smash that like. Thank you all again. And I will see you in the next one. As always, until then, God bless.